You're talking about the Penguin?
Yeah, so
Yes,
good.
sir.
It was fantastic. I won't spoil anything, but I saw that season finale. Tour de force.
Corey literally did.
Tour de
and there was,
force.
and spoiler alert afterwards.
What, really?
No, I didn't. I didn't. No, that was what I said was a joke, as in.
I just want to say my prediction skills are on fire. The last week we got Trump and Cruz race called perfectly. We got the ending of the Penguin called perfectly. I'm on a roll.
Did you document this anywhere? Did you make your prediction?
I did. I have enough people that'll vouch for me on the Penguin. We've been arguing about this thing in like a bunch of chats for months.
Are all the people that will vouch for you are in your audience?
No, they're all haters.
So I hate to. I'm going to be a little bit of a hater here.
Gibbs haters.
I'm going to be a little bit of a hater here. Gibbs bet on Kamala, and he should be ashamed of that because he.
I'm not, because I'm going to make enough money back with my taxes.
Good luck.
The fact it was ever in doubt for you, Gibbs. It was ever in doubt for you.
It was never in doubt. It was to prove these dumbasses wrong, but they didn't know about how the betting markets work. Listen, I'll put money on something to be able to say, "Hey, I'm smarter than you," and guess what? I was right.
You were showed wrong us. I didn't make any strong predictions.
I think this is a time for left-wingers to listen to conservative men on this panel. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, just like in 2020, like that was the same call. It's time that conservative men listen to like liberal men.
No,
that was a point of self-reflection, or you just double down again.
Well, that's because it was
I didn't
rigged.
vote Trump 2020. Okay, I'm just saying, I this time it was important, and I did it. I made it happen.
Well, last time it wasn't definitive, and there were some questions about whether or not it was even legitimate. And I think there's even more questions now.
There's more questions now that he wants.
Twitch mods. This is not me, just to be clear.
Yeah, have you not seen the new stuff they're saying? Well, wow, mighty suspicious. All these voters.
I'm sure I haven't
didn't
seen
appear. You've been missing out.
Is it the same place where you got that Walls information?
I'm one of them who didn't appear. What do you mean? I can vouch for that.
From the black insurrectionist.
Hey, don't worry about it. Hey, sometimes the sources be good, sometimes they aren't. You just gotta take them and
run with them, no matter what, right?
I didn't say the Walls thing was. I said there might be some teeth here. I never.
Oh yeah, there might be. Oh no, hold on. You made this big thing. How should you not have heard this?
I'm sure you said the same thing when those Epstein tapes and Trump came out. You said, "Oh, there might be some teeth here," right? I'm sure you.
I did. And then the truth came out that he banned Epstein. Then he banned Epstein from all his places. So that was a pretty good.
And now it's all settled now. But there wasn't
all good.
I'm sure at some point it's on record. There's some teeth.
I have a life hack for you guys, by the way.
Actions speak louder than words, and Trump's actions indicated that he was never an Epstein supporter after he found out about the degeneracy that Epstein was.
His actions? What were his actions?
Banning the guy from all his places.
After
Trump, after he
just publicly said that he banned them. How do you know that he actually banned them? You were there.
They kicked him out. They escorted him out.
He was there.
Yeah. So. At a certain point, presumably, this is the part we don't know for a fact, but presumably Epstein was getting fresh with a younger girl, and that is why Trump banned him from Mar-a-Lago and other buildings, etc. Stopped being like cushy with him, if you will. And then when the FBI was investigating early in the stages of going after Epstein, Trump was the only one that came forward without a subpoena. And gave them as much information as he could to try and put Epstein behind bars. This was before he was president. Now, one could argue, I think it's a bit of a fucking stretch, but one could argue that behind the scenes, Trump actually was working out a secret deal with the FBI that no one in the FBI that leaks something like every fucking week, if it hurts Trump, ever leaked that he actually had a deal in the background. But I mean, it is a possibility, though you're probably more likely to get struck by lightning twice. But it is still there that's what he was doing, that he was working out a plea deal and giving them information to keep himself safe. But I mean, like any reasonable person that looks at it knows that Trump had a falling out with Epstein, that he hated him, that he thought he was a degenerate, and that he actively did what he could to keep him away from young girls and protect young girls from Epstein.
I,
It's
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
Secoy.
if you just
Secoy.
believe that, you haven't looked into the data at all, or the articles at all, or you're just
Proof is in the pudding, Corey.
I
Proof
know.
is in the pudding.
I believe that he hated him. And he actually, talked to the FBI and all that. I believe that. But did he have a problem with him being a degenerate? Evidence says otherwise to that part.
What evidence?
Oh yeah,
Anybody
well,
can be a
hey,
hypocrite.
yeah, Epstein's my good friend, and him and I love young women. But him, he likes them a lot younger or something like that, right? That was the general line. And the fact that. And the fact that, and the fact that he knew him for, he was good friends with him for decades beforehand. This guy flew around, he palled around with him. He knew his friends. Right? If he didn't know, that would be shocking. It would be shocking.
Well,
that,
could it also be found out
other,
and then you cut him off?
You're
That's
willing
what it
to
seems
say
like.
that all these other billionaires knew that he was fooling around with, but simply with Trump, right? Trump, a man who is who has been reported to have sexually assaulted, accused of being of sexually assaulting dozens of women, a person who has been held liable for sexual assault, who has taken every opportunity to well, I guess I won't go any farther than that because
let me respond. I'll try and keep it quick. So first and foremost, billionaires palling around with other billionaires at parties where rich people go is not fucking uncommon or out of the ordinary. To say that someone was good friends because they have 20 photos in the public together where they were both at similar parties and they knew of each other is just how the billionaire class are. I absolutely agree that Trump is a degenerate, right? He's cheated on every one of his multiple wives. But that isn't the same thing. And him saying a comment like, "Oh, he likes them young, I like them young too," is not him saying, "I like to fuck kids," right?
Yeah,
that's him saying, "I'm a billionaire that likes 20-year-old hot chicks."
Obviously. Hold on. I didn't.
Right?
No.
I'm responding to the points that you made.
One second. I just want something clear. One second. Sure. Whatever. Hold on. Calm down. I just wanted to say one thing. I didn't say that Trump engaged in it, right? That's something very clear. I never said that. I said that he knew. That's it. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. The next one you said is he's been accused of raping dozens of women. An accusation against one of the most hated people in the entire world is really meaningful in any way, shape, or form, right? That means nothing. But you did say that he was, that he was convicted. We're not convicted, sorry. Found guilty in civil cases against Jean Carroll. Right. Mm-hmm. Jean Carroll, a woman who said that she was wearing a dress that couldn't have existed in her timeline, couldn't give the year, wrote a book where she said she was raped by 13 different men throughout her life, said on CNN Live that rape is sexy, said that she wouldn't call it rape, has been seen over and over again to have a story that makes no fucking sense. Trump didn't even show up for it because he knew that he had an activist judge, and proof was in the pudding when later, even though the jury compromised, which usually happens when people are trying to get out of fucking having to sit there because there's a couple of crazy people on the jury, and said sexual assault and did not put rape in that position, said that because they had found him liable for sexual assault, that means that Trump is a rapist, and said that to the media because we know that what he deeply, deeply desired was for Trump to be called a rapist so that you guys could regurgitate the same bullshit talking points. But again, anybody that's looked into the accusation in any way, shape, or form knows that not only does she have no evidence that a sexual assault occurred, she has plenty of conflicting stories and evidence that show that wasn't likely. Now, I think Trump's a piece of shit. I think he's a liar. I think he cheats on his wife. I think he's a degenerate. Maybe he knew what was going on with Epstein, but didn't have the power because, or didn't have the ability to do much about it, except, I don't know, specifically go to the FBI and work with them and give them information the moment that they have without having to be subpoenaed because he really wants to see this dude get his day in court.
Yeah, decades later. So again, like I never said that he engaged. I have no evidence to say that he engaged. And I'll leave it at that. Right. I just know that this man had known him for years, and he seemed to have implied that they had been friends, like close friends, for a long amount of time. Doesn't matter if they had like a bunch of pictures of with each other in public. I don't know why would I be concerned about that, right? Trump has more pictures in public. Trump has more pictures in public with a lot of other. Trump has. I didn't say that. I didn't. I never said anything. I never said anything about going to Island, right? No, so no need to worry about that. Any which way, he has more pictures with all these other politicians. Trump has more pictures with all these other politicians. Does that mean that Trump is closer with those individuals? Right? Like, I'm not judging the level of their intimacy by that, right? But it seems like from the statements that they were close. That's what I'm judging on, because that's all I got. But to be friends, probably, yeah. Like, I don't know, but yeah, probably. Oh, no, I don't. Hold on.
I'm just curious because there's way more evidence against Bill Clinton than there is.
Yeah, and I don't give a fuck about any, Bill Clinton, piece of shit. Bill Gates, piece of shit. I don't. There's a whole bunch of others. But those are the two that I remember.
That's another big one that I think people talk.
Sorry,
about.
what did you say?
Prince Andrew.
Prince Andrew. Oh yeah,
Prince Andrew's another of the big names.
Yeah. You're right. 100%. Yeah, all pieces of shit, right? Again, the only one, and I trust me, if I found the evidence that Trump had taken part in it, I would never shut up about it. But I had no evidence that he ever did. I'm saying that he knew. He had a lot, like what's his face? Epstein was taking these young girls around with them all the time. He never saw any of that. He never saw anything, right? He never heard anything palling around with this dude. I don't believe that. I can believe that he hated him afterwards. Sure, whatever. Could have falling out for all kinds of reasons. Or maybe he had a change of heart, right? Maybe he's like, hey, this guy.
Think about this for a second, real quick.
Sure.
Or maybe it got too hot,
right?
like
you're
around
I
Epstein.
think you're connecting things that aren't necessarily there, right?
Okay.
So there are two. You're saying because we're looking at a long period of time, and there's absolutely in this long period of time tons of times that Donald Trump has said positive things about Epstein because he hobnobs with all the other billionaires, right? And then there's plenty of pictures and evidence that show that they were at the same parties and that they hung out from time to time, right? So that they were at least more than just like, a passerby on the street. Like he clearly knew him, he spoke about him, he said positive things about him, they hung out. And then there are also throughout this very long period of time, tons of evidence that Epstein and his whole, we'll say, posse, right? Often brought girls that were 15, 16 around with them. Now, my issue is when you say, well, then he didn't see this. When we're looking at a 30-year period, why is there not a single photo that the media or crazy left-wing activists on Twitter can show of Donald Trump at a party next to Epstein and one of these girls that he has in tow with him in the same photo? That doesn't exist. Now, there is one of one of those girls at 15 giving Bill Clinton a back rub right before he hops on a plane. That photo exists, but there's not a single one of Trump. And I'm telling you, if there was a photo of just a young girl that we could prove was underage, Epstein and Trump in the same fucking room, you would see that photo every fucking day on Twitter. Right, like, and you would. So that photo doesn't exist. And what I would argue is most likely the case is that yes, he did ship around a lot of young girls, and he did hang out at a lot of billionaire parties. But I don't think those were necessarily always happening at the same time. I don't think Trump was probably in the same spaces where Epstein had a couple of young girls in tow.
I mean, just to play with that for a second, like, if you go out like a lot and you take photos. You're like, oh, night out. You take photos of like, I don't know, random people that are your friends or whatever, and eventually you see these people in the same like social circles. Like you would call these people your friends, but like if you don't ever see them outside like the party scene, like how would you know anything about their like life? Like really, like you know what I'm saying? Like I don't really feel like I kind of support.
Tom's kind of got a little bit of a point, right? Like,
But I mean, hold on. If I go on, I go to my Instagram. But hold on, if I go to my Instagram right now, and like they were like, oh, so and so is a like I don't know a coke dealer or works for the mob or something. Like, and okay, and I'm like in a like I don't know a photo or two with him like every other year, over a span of like 10 years, because he's from my like I don't know, like high school or something, right? And so I have like a 15, 20-year relationship with this person and 20 years of photo. Like, it's one thing to be like, oh yeah, maybe he works for the mob, someone says, and it's another thing to be like, oh yeah, he knows. And then whenever he like you see this evidence that like when he did find out something actual like evidence like wise, that he saw or had evidence of, he definitely acted out against this guy and like cut him off. Like, that's like to me evidence that he didn't know, like, because it's the minute it became public knowledge to him that this guy was doing this, he cut him off completely, and then like you said, went to the FBI. That doesn't indicate to me that he knew the whole time, personally.
The guy that recruits politicians and billionaires didn't try to recruit Donald Trump. It's kind of like if your friend works for the mafia, if the guy that you see twice a year, 3 times a year works for the mafia, yeah, you're not going to know anything about it because you're not doing anything. But if you're like do coke and you and him are doing coke, well, yeah, eventually he's going to tell you that like, well, I sell coke. And then eventually, if you see him often enough, yeah, he's going to tell you, well, yeah, I have a plug here, there, and these people tend to like brag, so on and so forth.
Also, who doesn't have a photo with Trump?
They did the metaphorical coke a few times. He made some comments, and then
metaphorical and actual.
I mean, maybe he did. I don't.
Yeah. No. Actually, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, he's straight edge. Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, he lost a brother to alcoholism. He's pretty straight edge. But but no.
One question I have.
Hold on.
Is,
hold on. Before you hold on.
I promise. I'll just finish what I said. I just, the metaphorical coke they did together, right? Of like being around young women and partying and stuff. The moment that he started hitting on an underage girl and harassing her, Trump got rid of him. And it's important to state that this occurred. I don't remember the exact year. I'd have to go look it up. But this occurred before there was any big call against Epstein, right? This isn't like the writings on the wall. This is like when Epstein still has a massive client list and is connected with all the powerful people, and it's financially disincentivized to go against somebody like Epstein. He did it anyways.
Go ahead, Katya.
Okay, so my question was just, is it? I mean, here's the thing. This isn't a case that I know every detail about it. But is it a possibility that around the time that he turned on Epstein, like he had whisperings or kind of been aware of like the type of things that have been going on for a while, but it seemed like other people would find out? Because it seems like Trump is the type of dude who wants to be the first person to break the news, because if somebody else does it, then he's implicated. I mean, but I'm not an expert on this. This is not my topic.
I brought that up earlier when I said, like, there is a small percentage chance that like he was working with the FBI because he knew a lot more what was going on, etc. My issue with that is you would have to believe that throughout all of 2016 to 2024, the same intelligence agencies that leaked 51 people saying the Hunter Biden laptop is Russian misinformation, the same people that constantly are in communication with the media and leaking things that they're not supposed to leak, so that it will hurt Donald Trump, would never have been able to find out that information from the investigation and been able to leak that. Like, nobody has. It's
not everything's been released.
It's possible. Right. That's what I mean, is that like if there was something on Trump, you can almost guarantee some whistleblower would have fucking.
I 100% believe
there are way too many people that hate Trump in the FBI.
100%.
That
especially with his DOJ crusade.
But it's just highly unlikely.
Well,
yeah.
Well, my thing would be, though, if he wasn't at all implicated in anything and he just said, "Hey, he told me this," or whatever, then the only way that I'd say that this type of thing would be plausible and, wouldn't really be leaked is if it was just something minor, no pun intended, within like the greater documents of it, that it wasn't anything that if somebody says, "Oh, Epstein, I told on Epstein," like it wouldn't be like a big deal because he just alerted them to him, and it wasn't like, "Oh, he was a pedophile." So if it was like kind of a nothing burger as far as Trump's involvement in documentation, that could be a thing where it wasn't leaked. That's, I'd say, the only possibility there.
Well, I mean, it's also possible. However, again, very unlikely. There was one girl that even the Washington Times had to admit this story was complete bullshit. Or was it the Washington Post? I can't remember. And it's one of the
They're very
ones that
different
you'll see, like,
organizations. Yeah.
yeah, I can't. I think I'm pretty sure it was Washington Times. But they tried to like track down the girl, and like she had like dis-a-fucking-peared, which there is some sketchiness there, obviously. But
Was that the one from the
there
court
was
document with the?
yeah, like this came out in like 2016, I think, and like everybody looked at it, and the story doesn't match any. Like he has alibis and everything, but you know,
Okay.
there's always that percentage chance that a billionaire finds a way to cover his tracks, right? Like nothing is ever 100% when people have this much money and power. I just again like it doesn't line up with anything that's possible when you recognize, just how leaky the FBI is and shit and how much they hate him.
I'd
Yeah.
also like to throw out there, like, this is like, since this guy's like a financier, right? Epstein, right? He has his thumb in a lot of pies, and Trump's kind of the same way. I could easily see, like, Trump finding out or hearing the rumors, right? And he's like, well, shit, I'm already, like, into, like, me and my associates have, like, done business this side, but we need to pull out. How do we do this, like, quietly over time? And then when Epstein actually does something in front of him to where Trump's like, oh, you got to go, he's like, okay, at this point, it doesn't matter. Now I've actually seen it. I have to extricate myself completely. Like, I think there's something to be said for that. I think it's very likely that it's like, oh, do I want to ruin billions and millions of dollars in business over like a rumor? And then, oh, I saw him do it. Yeah, now I'm gonna take my business out.
That's
Whether or not, like, I'd be like, okay, if you hear a rumor about somebody, like from people.
You can't get away from Epstein off
Yeah,
the fucking rumor.
like,
this guy has way too much money and power.
Yeah, and like on top of that, I know y'all don't do it for y'all's friends. Like, say you hear a rumor about one of your friends, and it's like, even if it's spicy, you're like, no, they didn't do that. Or like maybe the first time, or you hear it like 4 or 5 times, you're gonna be like, oh, that's shitty. I haven't seen them do that. They've never acted this way around me, etc. Then when you finally do see them, you're like, oh, I need to evaluate my friendship. So it's definitely like that, I think, with billionaires who probably have business interests and associates that have like business. It's like all these webs, right? Like, like where they're connected. I don't think it's just that easy to be like, oh, I gotta pull out.
I hear you. No, I hear you. I think that's a possibility as well. I'll say that. That especially if there is some financial entanglements, right? You have a reason to, ignore the rumors until like then it's in front of your face, and then like, all right, well, fuck, now I got to do something. No, it's definitely a possibility. So I'll put that out there. But I think it's also a possibility that he knew and he didn't do anything for decades. This was like an open secret. We didn't have the media environment that we have now, right? And we didn't have the cultural environment where we had now, right? So it's a possibility as well that he knew. And then they had some other falling out because there's plenty of reasons why these egomaniacs would like each other and then all of a sudden not like each other. And then he's like,
there's also a third possibility. And hear me out on this, right?
Sure.
Trump is a known degenerate. Trump is a known degenerate, right? I think we can all establish, even if you don't believe the rape allegations and all of that, you can establish that he said some weird shit. That he probably did show up in Miss USA locker rooms when he wasn't supposed to be there a couple times, right? That he did get recorded saying grab him by the pussy, and like when you're a billionaire, they let him do that, right? You can call him an alpha male, Andrew Tate, the other child trafficker, not Epstein, right? Like whatever, and it could be very possible, right? That given the culture and given what was going on and given the fact that he is a degenerate sick fuck, that like Trump doesn't really have a problem with you bringing around 16-year-old girls. But then he found out about Epstein's Island. And then he found out that it was like little kids. And then he was like, whoa, there's a big fucking difference than a girl that's like lying about her age by a year or two, but is a woman that's like at the parties with us. She wants to be here. I'm cool with that. But like your kid fucking on a secret island somewhere. Whoa, I got to get the fuck away from this. And then he's like, look, I may or may not have been around a couple of times when there was a 17-year-old girl that was doing coke and giving me a blowjob when my wife thought I wasn't at a party. But this kid shit is not the fucking same. You know what I mean? Like, so there is a kind of a middle ground area that might just be true.
I really like this one. Actually, I like this one a lot because it lines up with what we see in other areas, right? For Diddy, we had I was reading this article talked about one of his.
Who's going to be worse, Diddy or
Um,
Epstein?
Well, hold on, we'll work that in a second. But like,
They're
because that's actually a good
bad
question.
Black people.
But but no. But reading one of the articles about like we'll just call them recruiters. Okay, I don't know the best way to call them, but they would go out and look for women to be part of the parties, right? And he had like, and I might have the article somewhere. I think I might have saved it. But he had all kinds of requirements for their appearance, right? They couldn't be over like 140 pounds, right? Unless they were like super tall, but mostly like 140 pounds is like the limit.
Sensible requirement. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want any fatties at your Diddy party.
Yeah,
Right?
the fatties. They had to had like
You're
long
fucking kidding me,
hair.
okay, you get to choose.
They had to have I think they had to have nice asses. I forget about that part. But it was like a whole list of like physical requirements that he would ask.
Hold on, pause.
But what was
Pause real quick.
I mean,
The idea that they have to have, quote, nice asses means that at one point in time, because anybody that's seen Making the Band knows that Diddy had these people who was like, come here. All right, I got a slideshow of what is and isn't a nice ass. All right, I'm not going through this again. All right, see this ass? This is a nice ass. See this ass? That is not a nice ass.
That also means one time
guess
somebody.
that is fine.
That also means one time he failed. Somebody brought
So,
somebody in
hold
there
on, but
that was a real terrible
let me-
ass.
let me finish the story, please.
Right.
But anyway, the last
Fuck no.
continue.
oh god, let me finish the story. So he had this whole list of physical requirements. But what the recruiter specifically said is that one thing they didn't have to ask, or chose specifically not to bother asking, was how old they were. And like, so the recruiter, and maybe this is like CYA type shit, right? Like where she says, because it was a woman, it's easier to do this for a woman. She says, "Oh well, I thought
Andrew Tate
the
would.
reason why we wouldn't ask was because of alcohol, right? We're just having alcohol there, right? So if like an 18-year-old comes in, right? Well then, don't ask, don't tell. Oh, the 18-year-old got a little tipsy. It's something that they do, right? But it seems fishy, and then we know now that there are plenty of underage girls. So anyway, to connect it, yes, I like that theory because in that party scene, things are loose, and there's so much money. There's so much money, right? And like women like are drawn to them like magnets, right? And yeah, maybe someone doesn't get ID checked, and they get into a club, and it's like, whatever, right? Like she seems a little young to me, but whatever, right? I've had some young looking women around myself too, so you can just push that away until then you hear about an island with like kitty fucking happening, and then that changes it. So I'll put that out there.
Right. All I have to say is, I guess the 140-pound weight limit makes sense because after you roofie somebody, you have to carry them around. It can't be too heavy for that.
Yeah.
Diddy's not very good at math, right? So he doesn't want to have to try and figure out the dosage.
That's the real reason. Oil slide people down the stairs.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
No, it was really bad because they were like all the alcohol had been like pre-spiked. And like
Yeah, there's no dosage math there. Holy shit.
Did they ever figure out if it was baby oil or GHB?
Lordy.
The employees knew not to drink any of that stuff. And like just like pretty much every drink. No, even like the water too, I think.
The baby oil was spiked.
The baby oil the baby oil itself?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why there was
allegedly, yeah.
That's why there was so much baby oil. Is like that's what they figured out. Remember, there was like an insane.
Yeah,
amount of
1,000.
oil?
Yeah.
It's right, and the reason is
What were
because
they
that
doing?
baby oil had been laced with GHB.
Oh,
So
I didn't know about that
then-
part.
Right, so then you could get people to take the date rape drug just by like having
Rubbing the baby oil off.
They had like 3 different vectors to get this into the body of a woman. Like 3 different vectors. It's crazy.
Wow.
Um,
Woman
Ant
is being
Man.
very generous.
Ant-Man.
yeah,
Ant-Man.
girl.
Pretty sure Justin Bieber got some fucking baby oil too.
Well, we know Meek Mill did. That's true.
Yeah, no, that's fair. No, and also it's
Men are victims too,
I-
Prime. You fucking sexist piece of shit.
yeah, indeed. But no,
Were they just like rubbing people down with the baby oil? I didn't read
Yes.
all these documents.
Yeah, you don't.
Okay, because when
That's what you do
when it
with
was
baby
first
oil.
said, I was like scared that people were like drinking it, and I was gonna be like, "Oh my god, is this like a shit yourself party?"
Hulu in
What the
2020
fuck?
right now has like a 1 hour special each week now dedicated to the Diddy stuff. So if you check it out, there you go. There's your free
Really?
No,
Pro, yeah. So it has all
I'll
the.
just
read the
making a
document.
documentary
Oh, yeah,
called
50
Diddy
Cent's
Do It
big-
is the most
Diddy
amazing
Do It.
thing.
Yeah,
I'm pretty
50
excited about
Cent
that.
like hates
50 Cent do
Diddy.
it.
50 Cent is my fucking hero, man.
Yeah, 50
Yeah.
Cent's been an
Oh,
incredible,
God.
an incredible
And
person.
real.
So petty.
He's so real and hilarious.
He's hated him for like years, and he's been trying to
I've
go
seen
at
him since,
and
forever.
Ever.
and he tried to, and he was saying that like, hey, if someone
His
can give
moment
me,
now.
he's like put out bounties for like evidence, like if you give me a tape of Diddy doing this or that, right? Or like like the general tapes that Diddy was taking, because Diddy, just like again, there's like a lot of
Diddy
parallels with
party
Epstein,
tapes,
right? Because he had cameras, and he was recording them for like compromat, right? Recording the guests so we could use that to control them. And Diddy put out, 50 Cent put out a bounty for those, right? Like anyone get hands
Well,
on
he
those
used
things.
to record the parties and sell the DVDs, like the Diddy Party DVDs. They would get like leaked and sold around because they would make like party DVDs, like recap videos.
Uh-huh.
Is that the reason?
Still, for the record, the best thing Diddy has ever, I'm sorry, not Diddy, fuck. The best thing 50 Cent has ever said, I love this more than anything. Sometimes I watch this video again just to make myself happy. Is 50 Cent telling Floyd Mayweather that he will
That's a good
give
one.
$1 million to ALS Foundation if he can read a page out of a Harry Potter book.
And then the cat, then the Cat in the Hat one after. He said, "We know you can't read all them words in the Harry Potter book."
But did 50
So
Cent
would
hate,
you, have you?
did 50 Cent hate Diddy because he had knowledge that this was occurring but couldn't prove it?
No.
Or,
No, he hated Diddy because I think like Diddy slept with his ex-wife or
I don't know the
some shit.
history
Like,
of
he's just
these
a petty
things.
guy. Yeah, he.
Okay.
Yeah,
50
it's not-
Cent will
he's
hate
not
you
a hero.
just 'cause
He
he's
was right.
bored.
Reasons.
Yeah, he doesn't like it for a lot of reasons. That's for sure.
Yeah.
He was vindicated.
It's like, and then it's like Ja Rule's number two.
Probably didn't help, you know.
Yeah, I don't think he's a hero in this story, right? He's
No.
just like he just happens to hate the correct person, and now he can leverage all those years of hatred. But I don't think he's like
You hate enough people,
Yeah,
you'll eventually be right.
yeah, right. Like
His
eventually,
hater
yeah.
radar is on point.
Yeah. So
I mean, he was right about Ja Rule. That's 2 for 2. You know, I'm just saying.
What did Ja Rule do?
So Ja Rule's the guy he went on with Fire Fraud and all that shit and stole
Oh,
the
yeah.
money
that's
for
what-
like with the fake festival. Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what he hated Mayweather for, but I mean, he was probably right there too.
yeah. Mayweather's a dickhead. He's like a
Yeah.
known dickhead. So I'm sure
They
there's
were
something.
friends
Mayweather
with.
was
They
just
were friends
talking shit.
previously. Him and Mayweather were friends.
Yeah, they had some kind of falling out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's pictures. I do remember seeing pictures of them together, like showing off like their money. Like they had like a similar
There you go again
personality.
with the fucking pictures.
Sorry. There you go.
Maybe they messed up documenting everything.
No, they
Jesus
were friends.
Christ.
They were friends.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so were him and Ja Rule are friends too, and they phoned. You know, beef happens.
Fuck are these
Yeah, I
people
mean,
even?
it's a good reason to
Ja
be
Rule is
enemies, right?
friends?
It's
Well,
surprising.
yeah, still.
Dude, he's so petty that when Ja Rule got out of prison, 50 Cent went and bought on his coming back tour as many tickets as he could, almost the entire concert, and bought it so that Ja Rule had to do a fucking concert to an empty venue.
Yeah, just
That
50.
is how petty 50 Cent is. 50 Cent is my
I
fucking
mean,
hero.
that's not. I mean,
okay? Like
That's
love
hilarious.
50 Cent.
It was like just the first 2 rows or some shit. Yeah, and he was like the only guy in there, and he's like clapping for him.
not the worst.
He was up front clapping
he still
with,
gets
like
money.
a bunch of empty seats.
But it looks embarrassing. It looks embarrassing when the videos come out and the stage is empty.
Yeah, optically, but it's like, you know.
Yeah,
you
Optics
can-
matter a lot in hip hop.
Well,
man.
he got paid for
Rap.
one tour, but the rest of the tour is going to fail. You got roasted, and it's an empty stadium for all the photos. No, people are going to not buy those tickets.
Was he really? No, was he really? I heard about the.
No, he wasn't
the
there. He
buying.
wasn't there, but
He wasn't there. Okay, yeah, that would have been great.
To an empty section, yeah.
That would have been great. Just to have actually
Just like-
Should have just been sitting in the middle, just like by himself.
He probably would have got shot if he would have done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have
Okay.
to stay away,
So-
steer clear.
50
So-
Cent has been shot enough times, right? I don't
He
think
know,
that's
yeah, he knows how to. He learned how to
So-
dive this time. Don't
Sure.
show up at the
Ah,
shooting.
darn.
So, hey all, this is every roundtable, which we do Mondays, 8 p.m. Eastern. We got a great group of guests here. Let's start by introducing them. Thanks for being here, Lactoid. How are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Prime?
I'm doing all right.
I'm trying a little bit of slightly different lighting. It's probably not even noticeable, but might add a little bit of depth.
You
So-
look a little darker.
Turn down the
Like I
mood
mean, like the
lighting.
room looks darker. You look just as white, but yeah,
Like
sure.
some purple, maybe?
a little bit of
Yeah.
purple. Yeah,
Needs
well,
that bisexual
not,
lighting.
not purple. It actually is. It's red and blue. It's the bisexual lighting. That's right.
Trying to steal my swag,
Very little bit. It's just a
First,
tad,
Ollie.
right?
I was here first.
brother.
Like, every
he's been
every
working.
star needs a little bit of bisexual lighting. Ollie goes way
He's
too
just gonna-
far.
He was hoping to do it just a little bit at a time, a little bit more, and hoping no one would notice.
Absolutely, yes.
Slightly more bisexual over time. It's got
Um,
bi-curious lighting.
just a little bit, but I'm probably not going to move the light, so too lazy to do that. So it's probably going to be this way forever. I'm Lactoid. You can find me at Lactoid TV, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, friend. Next, we have our friend Scott. Happy to have you here. Scott, how are you?
Happy to be back. I'm doing all right. Having fun, getting busy. I'm Fabian Liberty. I'm an anarcho-capitalist, libertarian, right-wing anarchist, voluntarist, whatever you want to call me. I don't care so long as it's correct. You can find me Fabian Liberty on Twitter, on YouTube. You can find me on Twitch too, but I don't stream to Twitch because it's just too dangerous to do so right now with my political opinions. It's just a good way to get censored. Thursday. So I'm doing streaming like Wednesdays and Thursdays, obviously coming here, when I get the chance. Thursday, I think I'm going to start a new series that I'm really excited to start, which is like presentations on heroes of capitalism. Even conservatives have been filled with so much lies from leftist history and brain rot against capitalism that they no longer venerate some of the heroes and legends of the Gilded Age and industrialization in America. So I'll be starting with the one, the only James Cash Penney, a man that was very aptly named the father of the department store, raised his first $1 billion before his company even went public from poverty. I'm excited to tell those stories, tell the true stories of so many people that have been shit on through history and too many people have bad perceptions of the people that we should venerate as heroes of American capitalism that built this country. So check it out on Thursday.
So, like, you'll be talking about the Rockefellers, the Mellons, the Chases, those types.
Rockefeller, yes. Some of the other ones, not so much, right? Just because they were super wealthy doesn't mean they were a hero of capitalism. John D. Rockefeller, absolutely. My one I'm really excited to do, but I need to do a lot more research on, is probably the most vilified man in American history compared to what he achieved and how great of a person he was, is George Pullman. The massive amount of lies that the labor unions and the left-wing historians have told about Pullman because of the Pullman strikes is just utterly deplorable. A man that built an entire suburb of Chicago and offered poor farmers who had nothing the middle class lifestyle of homes and indoor plumbing and food on the table every night and an education for their children to work at his railroad in the beginning of the burgeoning of capitalism. But because he raised rent when there was a depression going on, he's the most evil person ever.
I like to about that. Gil, is good to hear another perspective on these individuals. But that sounds interesting. Good luck with that. Let's go to our friend Corey. Corey, thanks for being here. How are you, friend?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me. Always appreciate and I'm grateful for the invite. You can find me on Twitch, CoreyCam84, Twitter, X, Instagram, YouTube. And just like Lactoid, I'm a socialist Canadian.
Indeed. Thank you so much, friend. Hey, I was wondering, do you guys by that I mean Canadians. Do you have like a Black History or like a Black Canadian History Month, or do you guys do that type of stuff there?
We just piggyback off of you, actually.
Okay.
Basically.
So yeah, go ahead.
No, pretty much just like we have Thanksgiving. I don't even know what the origin of Canadian Thanksgiving is, but it's like a different date. But like, yeah, just like most of the holidays, we just like leech off of. Just like today. Well, in Canada today, it's Remembrance Day. I think for you, it's a Veterans Day.
Veterans,
yeah. I mean, this is still a historical day for us, but from a different perspective. But yeah,
it was called something before Veterans Day. Was it Remembrance Day here? It was. We had a different name for it.
Day.
Armistice. Yeah. Thanks. But I mean, like, so then February, do you guys do like a Black History, like
it's like in our calendars, like in our Canadian calendars, like it's there. At least most of the versions that I've seen. Okay. But like, I don't know that it's like, I don't know that as much like content creation goes into it here or whatnot, or whatnot. So
it's on your calendar. So it's on
they just celebrate whenever Justin Trudeau does blackface. Like that's
every 20 years or so.
So multicultural.
It happens every year, so you they just kind of wait for it.
I'm like wondering, like if you guys celebrate, like, because you guys are, the it's not the melting pot, it's the mural. What was it?
I can't even remember. Like, this goes ways back to like.
No, that is what you guys. We call ourselves the melting pot. You guys call it the mural. Come on, guys, help me out with this.
What Canadians call themselves.
Oh, guys, come on! Someone in chat, you know what I'm talking about, all right? It's not the melting.
Cornucopia.
No, it's not the melt. America considers itself a melting pot, right? Where everyone like those in whatever makes them special.
It's too cold for a melting pot in Canada, though. So
and it melts together to create America, right?
New pot.
It's those murals that are created out of each individual, like a small piece of rock or something, and they put them all together and make a picture. Not a collage. It's a
mosaic.
Mosaic. You don't know this, Corey? Like,
not mural.
Whoa! You were not saying anything close to mosaic. You're saying
mural.
I
said mural. I said
like a mural.
Yes, that's a kind of similar idea.
Yeah,
they both start with the letter M. In my mind, conceptually, a mosaic and mural are different.
Anyway. Thank you, Ghosty, for helping me out here. But anyway, like the idea is it's rather than like you. Mixing and becoming American, it's like all these little individual like ethnicities or stories, right? Make a larger whole without like losing their specific identity, which I thought was
all right.
Oh, you don't know, Corey. You literally don't know. Okay,
no, you're wrong. Like, I'm pretty isolated here in the true Canada of Quebec, and I'm also isolated to the Anglophone community because I'm also not French.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll leave that there for now. I'd like to hear from other Canadians what their experiences there. I really want to hear from Black Canadians. But
all 15 of them.
All 15 of them. Let's go to Drake is one, right? So there's that.
Loose with the definition of black, there, buddy.
Yeah, we're looking. For a diamond, for a straw in a haystack, right? So we'll take what we get. Hey, Gibbs, thanks for being here. This has been taking a long time to actually get through this. Gibbs, thanks for being here.
Hey, it's good to be here. I'm excited for these topics today. It's gonna be fun stuff. I'm Admiral Gibbs. You can find me as Admiral Gibbs.
Fantastic. Katya, first time being back here in a while. Happy to have you. How are you?
I am good. Just been really busy lately. I don't know what to say besides, so I was a poll worker for the election. So I was at the I was there for 16 hours and then I got back and then obviously the rest of the night happened. So, and then I got really sick afterwards. Just like I caught like the flu, and so I've been having like a trash week, but I'm doing pretty good now. So you can find me on Twitter as Premier Katya. I post about electoral politics despite having an ideology that I feel like people don't think is real, which is market socialism, but whatever.
She caught Trump derangement system.
Who
So
says it's not real? It's real.
Syndrome.
It's just bad.
System.
it's a symptom, but like, yeah, so-
Syndrome.
syndrome, whatever. Well, I don't have it, so I wouldn't know. But anyway, happy to have you, Katya, and it's been a while, so we're happy that you made it back. Let's go to our friend Ali. Thank you, Ali, for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me, man. Always a pleasure. Look forward to these on Mondays. Scott, great to have you back. I feel like we missed you. The rants are amazing. I'm actually looking forward to getting into less about Trump. I just want to talk about the fucking shit Dems have been saying and doing the past week. Like, it has been insanity. But yeah, for all opinions, you can find me at Sociologic at Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, all the media things. Thank you for having me, Brian.
Absolutely. In fact, that's exactly where I want to go. And finally, our friend Ghosty. Nice to have you.
Hi, thanks. I'm Ghosty. It's spelled with a 6. And again, sorry for being a little late, but I do have a good excuse. My the other night, like 2 nights ago, a bunch of water started pouring through like the ceiling, and
Your
literally
indoor waterfall leaked.
yes, from my
Looks
like
a
massive
pipe
pool
burst. I didn't know that
upstairs.
You were a poll watcher as well.
Wait, what?
Ignore him. Just
Sorry, I went
move
over
on.
my head. But yeah, and it like just missed my camera and computer by inches, so I had to like unset everything up, and I forgot, so I had to reset that up. But other than that, I'm doing good.
Oh, no worries.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad you're all right. One of the wings of our house apparently got damaged, a little water damage, but
Under construction.
yeah.
She's adding a skylight.
It's a miracle she found it.
Yeah, she's got. I mean, that was the east wing, but she's got the north wing, the south wing, the west wing, the northeast wing, and all that around. So
Billionaire problems.
Billionaire
What can I
problems.
say?
But thanks so much. Okay, so yeah, I actually did want to go there, so we can talk about the election. I talked about it on Thursday with the black people, and now I have all of you. So
Blacks.
This is
The
your
blacks.
white live stream.
yeah, this is the white stream. Or the light skin stream.
This is
now
your
they wanna
most
hear about-
diverse. This is the DEI stream.
This is comparatively this is a DEI stream. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I really wanted to get you guys' opinion on well, if you have something on the election you want to say, right, on the election itself, then now's the time to say it. But I really did also want to go to where Ali was pointing to, and like the reactions from the left and the right afterwards, right? And how do you feel about it? Do you feel the autopsies are fair and balanced and sane? Do you feel like either side is learning the correct lessons from this, right? Both the losers and the winners? Are they learning the correct lessons of this election? Or, yeah, what? Well, just, yeah. So anyone can jump in.
No, the answer is the Democrats are not learning the correct lessons whatsoever. The amount of, I think, hubris, we've seen it constantly right before the election. The hubris of course she's going to win, right? I mean, how many videos do we have to see? And then, of course, she gets shellacked pretty hard. And you would think, right?
Yeah.
Look, I'm willing to forgive hubris once. Okay, we're all human. I get it. All right. You went to go buy champagne. You demeaned some guy there who's working, for some working class job. You flout your political science degree, your political analyst bullshit, and you turn out to be wrong. I get it. Okay, it happens. But I expect a little bit of humility. Okay, just a little bit. I expect a little bit of, yeah, we fucked up. And to give some people credit, like Bernie Sanders, there are some people who are eating crow, and they are absolutely saying, yeah, here's why we lost. We didn't listen to people enough. We thought we'd be fine. It was a dumb move. Okay, all right, reasonable, okay? Reasonable take. And then you got some people who are, it's just racism all over again. Oh my, okay, all right. We got to double down. We got to go even harder. Trump stole the election. And so, no, I
talk about that.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of people are just not, getting the message, which is, you guys fucked this up from the very beginning.
And they're not receptive.
At least since
They're
the
not
Her
receptive.
report,
No
you
humbleness.
guys have fucked this up at least since the Her report, and they're just not going to learn the lessons necessary. They're going to let the DNC rule their party with an iron fist, and it's going to fuck them up probably again.
And they turn to everything they've said about Republicans, the racism, the sexism, they just turned around and right away they started. They were like everyone was like, "Oh, we're drinking Starbucks again in the McDonald's." I get it if you're against the boycott, doesn't matter. But I'm just saying you were riding with the boycott until Kamala lost, and then I saw this one dude who was a Democrat Latino who posted the phone number for ICE and said, "Hey, you should call ICE on your Republican voting friends, family members." I was like, "Yo, what the fuck is going on?"
Yeah, I saw that too.
No humility, no humbleness.
Let's go to Gabe.
Zero.
I was going to say, on top of that, there's an absolute rejection of what seems like reality from a lot of them, right? You're okay, you'll go in here, and they're like, "Oh, we don't want to give anybody their flowers," right? I get not wanting to be told you're wrong, and I know it's hard to tell someone else they were right, but it's an outright rejection that someone might have been right. Like today. Today's a great example. I was talking about this maybe before I came in. I got kicked out of a Discord, and this is probably the first time I've been kicked out of Discord in 6-7 months. I mean, honestly, I don't get kicked out often. And it was because the guy called me dumb. And he's like, "Well, all these other millions of people are dumb, whatever." And I'm like, "All right, so let's just say hypothetically I am dumb. How did I guess that what all these other people were saying?" And we basically are just saying, "You're not listening to us. You're not caring about our issues. And your response is that we're dumb." And then we all voted the same way. That's why you lost. And he's like, "Well, if you feel that way, then you're not." I was like, "Well, who's dumber? The guy who's dumb or the guy who didn't listen to all the dumb people and went out and vote? It's you. You're the dumbass." And so it's just this outright rejection that there's any possibility that their stats could be wrong, or they were looking at the wrong data, or they weren't listening to people. I've heard people go, "Well, even though we lost, the stats still say the data still says I'm correct," and it's just no, it doesn't. You're wrong. Just accept that you were wrong, and let's analyze what y'all did right. This doubling down on going further left, that's not right answer. This doubling down on we don't want to appeal to moderates, that's not the right answer. This elitism, that's especially not the right answer. And I just think you tell them this, and it's just outright rejection and not willingness. There's a few exceptions, but for the most part, no, it's across the board.
Yeah. So I don't know who's trying to speak.
No, yeah, I forgot you were going next, and then I'll go after you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so this might be a little meta, but I think it's the correct way to view this, kind of zooming out. And that is that the left is less grounded in reality. I know this okay, that's such a provocative thing, but it's just true, right? The leftist philosophy holds the concept as one of its axioms that contradictions can exist in reality. If you don't believe me, then you haven't read enough leftist philosophy. It's just true. I mean, that is kind of the whole process of historical materialism or dialectical materialism, however you want to say it. But that doesn't mean that the right is somehow magically, grounded in reality because the left isn't, right? I mean, the right has plenty of its own issues in not being able to see, but there is this kind of factor where you have, the midwits is kind of the coalition of the left, right? You have the slightly higher than IQ, college-educated individuals tend to be your Democrat voters, and your slightly lower IQ tend to be your conservative base. And there is this, to what so many people are saying, there's so much hubris in this and, elitism in this because you're 6 IQ points higher than the Trump voter. And yet there is something to be said about wisdom and about being engaged in reality, right? There's something to be said about, working people that the Democrats have completely abandoned, right? The working class has been abandoned and left to the populist right. at least, maybe not by like Bernie Sanders, but by most of the left. It has been, a game of identity of, you should vote for me because we need a woman. You should vote for me because you're a woman. You should vote for me because, you're black. You should vote for me for these reasons, as opposed of like, these are the struggles of the working class. And so when the right is engaged with what are the price of eggs, right? And the left is engaged with, in my worldview, it's totally true that Trump is going to make pregnancies, mandatory, and like all miscarriages will, result in women dying, and, insanity. And I think the problem with the left, especially in this situation, is that they start with these false axioms, and then they are self-referential. It's like a map copying problem, right? Where they're not checking back in with reality. They're checking back in with their own echo chamber and their own team, and they're kind of collectively gaslighting each other. And then what ends up happening, just like when you copy a copy of a map, is every time you copy a map, the map gets a little less accurate, to the point where it just starts creating islands and like changing the coastlines, because they're not checking back in with reality. And I think so many people on the right are like, hey, you lost massively when you were considering, when all of your experts were like, oh, Kamala's got this in the bag. You know what I mean? XQC spent $700,000 betting on Kamala Harris because Destiny told him that, oh yeah, Kamala's winning for sure. That's happening.
Like $10 in his world. So I don't know.
I don't know. $700K is a lot of money to basically anybody, really. But you
just quickly,
the situation I'm seeing is, and that's why they keep referring back to the axiom. You're seeing the map copying problem occur in real time, where they go, oh well, it's just racism, it's just sexism, it's just it's like they can't fathom that the average conservative that isn't ideologically possessed with these axioms of like the culture war, that they're like, oh, well, it must be that they're transphobes. And it's like, yeah, dude, like 4% of the people that voted on exit polls said that like anything cultural had anything to do with it. It was the economy. It was the economy, stupid. Like, it really is just conservatives with normal jobs grounded in reality going, this person is saying crazy shit and not talking about my suffering and my problems that I'm having. And they're trying to gaslight me and telling me that wages have kept up with inflation, and that like I'm crazy for thinking that the grocery store prices are out of control.
Just quickly, Sean on YouTube gave a super chat, 10 Canadian fun bucks, much appreciated. They said I didn't have to bother reading their super chat, but happy Remembrance Day to you too. Let's go to Katja, and then Ali.
Yeah. So.
Oh, and then
what I have to say about this is, yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like I do understand why we got into the position that we did, and I kind of feel vindicated because literally, well, in an annoyed way, I'm annoyed because literally the day afterwards, the best takes from people who are saying, oh, we should have done this, we should have done that, is shit I said we should have done years ago. Like, dealing with the media as far as having better alternative media on the left. Like, why does the right have all these podcasts? They've got the Daily Wire. They've got, those types of companies. They got Turning Point USA. Where's our Turning Point USA? Missing in action.
Hollywood.
Wait, you guys have the media.
No.
Yeah, wait, Katja. Joe Rogan has been Democrat, liberal, pushing the whole time. Literally up until this moment,
that was a big problem. We let him lapse. What the fuck happened?
Kamala didn't show up.
Because you lost the middle.
This is the problem that I've been seeing. Is like we keep blaming the voters for not voting, for voting third party, for not. No, it wasn't our fault. It was the candidate. The candidate was fucking bad. She didn't talk to anybody. She didn't do a single interview. She didn't go to a single city. She didn't do shit. She didn't talk to a single person and hit on a single issue that anyone cared about. That's and
those podcasts she went on.
What?
She paid them.
Christianity?
She paid the Call Me Daddy podcast. She paid them like six figures to go on.
$100,000.
Yeah, and then she
That's
paid.
great.
And then she paid Oprah $1 million.
Build a shitty little studio.
Hey, well, here's a crazy thing. We dodged a bullet economically because apparently they ran out of money. They can't even pay all their vendors. Now that's being a story. So hey, if she couldn't even run a campaign successfully,
that happens.
we know what the economy would have been.
So
real
I feel like we need to focus on the media environment as well.
It does.
Just say
it wasn't
not a good sign.
She didn't focus on any media. She
that's
didn't
like-
take any interviews. She turned down Rogan.
No. I'm talking about the media environment that's been existing since 2015, 2016. Like I'm talking about built up.
Rogan was our biggest push, and then his endorsement was a big deal.
Oh man, I got so much to say, but I'm gonna get to that later. Just quickly,
I'm talking about entire media companies, not just one guy. So
quickly with the campaigns. Hold on, oh my god, hold on. Quickly,
y'all got to speak.
I want to say something too.
Yeah, because we have a whole list of people here. Just quickly with campaigns. There's a reason why campaigns say when they end, right? We're suspending our campaign, not we're ending our campaign. Because lots of times they end in the red. All right, you overspend by the end of the campaign. Now, Kamala is also I believe it's $20 million in the hole, or maybe $40 million. I forget the number. But
It was 22 last I checked.
Okay, yeah, sure. So she's in the hole, but that happens to lots of them. And the reason why this is suspend specifically is so that you can still raise money, right? So like Hillary was raising money for her campaign for like a decade, like afterwards, like to pay down the debt. But that's like a thing that happens with almost all campaigns is that they're a little bit or maybe a lot in the red afterwards, and then they try to put money into that campaign through various ways. I'm not exactly sure how they do it, but to pay down their debts over a long period of time. I just want that out there. All right. Ali wanted to say something, so then we'll go.
No, let her finish. Shit. No, Katya had some more stuff she wanted to say. Let her finish.
Faith was going to respond to something I said, so I mean, I kind of want to hear his response. So if you could go ahead.
Well, I was going to let other people go, but yeah, I agree with you that the left doesn't have the same grassroots social media kind of like alternative media that the right developed. But the thing is that the right developed it out of necessity. Right, the right developed it because they were censored on Facebook constantly. They were censored on YouTube constantly, but not to the same degree as Facebook. They were massively censored on Twitter. Right, they didn't have a voice in legacy media other than Fox News, and Fox
that
News
barely
is like tepid right wing. Like there's no Christian nationalists on Fox News. There's no far right people on Fox News. They are like rhinos.
It's my socialists on MSNBC.
They're like neocons. Yeah, they got Karl Rove on there.
So I mean, like they had to start a grassroots organization, and the reason and what started that was Gamergate. What started that was a bunch of normal dudes that realized that there was a few woke people that couldn't stop having sex with people so that they could make their way into the journalism in games journalism and bullshit about games. And then you had a lot of young men, like young millennials, and that were seeing what was happening, that started making YouTube channels and started talking about that. That's where you get Lauren Southern, Milo Yiannopoulos, these people, Sargon of Akkad, these people get their start in the beginnings of them being lied to by every media institution it is and only covering for the left. So it's like if you want to start an alternative media beyond just like Cedar Report and Pac-Man and the Young Turks,
yeah.
Like you're going to have to this isn't something that happened overnight. It took 30 years of suppression by the left, and that has all of the power in this country in media.
So you mean because right now Facebook, Turn, Twitter, we know what's going on there. I mean, there's been a lot of a big pushback against that. And also there's been a turn away from traditional media in general as far as what actually determines, what actually reaches the people. So, I mean, in that case, now the left is super, super behind the times. And that kind of also informs another situation where the right, even the far right, even the, psycho crazy right, they will get behind Trump and get behind the electoral candidates. But on the left, it's like either you have the most milquetoast, hand-wringing, pearl-clutching motherfuckers, or you have people who are like, fuck, the Democrats don't vote for anybody. So it's like two-front war there. And
So-
I think that these are
And that's
two main
always been-
things that need to be worked on.
I don't know. I don't know.
Hold on. We got a line here, so we're gonna go to a game. I was gonna say Gamergate. Holly. That's what he looks. That's exactly what Gamergate. That's the
That's
face of
his name.
Gamergate right there.
I'm
We got
the face of
Ali.
Gamergate.
New
We
name.
got Ghosty. Corey, I believe you had hand up previously, right? And we have our friend Lactoid. After that, I'm taking my turn because holy shit, I have so much to say, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
blow my stack here. Holly, go.
I'm a Democrat voter, so everything I say, I'm not like a pro-Trump guy. I'm not even going to touch social media or like media platforms. Kamala knew what platforms to hit. She could have gone on. There's a plethora of podcasts she could have gone on. I'm not even going to. Dude, she didn't come to Dearborn or Detroit. Trump came to Detroit. Trump went to every city the whole time. He went to every city. He looked people straight in the eyes, whether it was lying, whether it was whatever the fuck you want to call it. But he looked at people and he said, "Yo, shit's fucked up. I'm gonna fix it." And they were like, "Okay," because he came and talked to them. Like he came to Detroit, he came to Dearborn, came to the center of Dearborn, and had everyone there yelling at him to his face. Kamala never showed up. As a matter of fact, the DNC plugged their ears from protesters. Like these are actual reasons why the guy won. It's not the platforms, it's not the social media. The candidate was bad. She didn't do anything. She didn't speak to anyone. And that was the problem. Not social
spoke
media.
to a lot of
was her.
people. She spoke to the wrong people, but she absolutely spoke to a lot of people.
And none of them showed for her. So she didn't talk to anyone.
So
I don't know
I don't know
if-
where none is. I mean, it was a lot closer an election than you thought. I mean, it wasn't, or than people think. It wasn't. It's obviously not good. Obviously, some things need to change. Obviously, big mistakes were made in this campaign. But like, I feel like she didn't talk to nobody. You know, it was this
Her
extreme
base
blowout.
didn't turn
this,
out
that,
for
and the
her, so she
third.
didn't touch her base. If she didn't
She
touch
didn't
her base,
overperform
and the
in a
base didn't show up.
single county by more than 3%.
Yeah,
in the United
like,
States. That's terrible.
Where did she
Well,
perform?
there's
Like, she
been
didn't
a
talk-
rightward shift in general. I mean, it seems
Not a
not
single
just
county.
Trump,
Not a
but
single
I'm
county.
saying no, didn't in Colorado, or am I thinking of something else?
I don't know. CNN
But
was
I
saying that
digress.
like
No,
not
no,
a single county got over. Well, like
They were. I believe.
He won
I could
all
be
the
wrong.
swing states.
No, she didn't overperform by a margin of 3% in a single county in the United States. Was CNN's claim? That's
That could be
fucking
true.
terrible. That's fucking terrible.
So I don't know
See,
if
it is
it's
claim.
like these smaller. I mean, they're not really small, but these like this media culture war that we have on the internet right now is really that much of an impact. I feel like the majority of voters are probably older and not really like watching Tim Pool and like shit on YouTube and stuff. She also wasn't a great candidate. The Biden dropout didn't help. She wasn't good at like interviews and stuff. But I think the big issue that really like made an impact is the kind of left's demonization of the Republican voiced issues without providing solutions to those issues. So Republicans have been complaining about corruption, inflation, immigration, and like kind of radical wokeness. And instead of the left like addressing these problems that Trump has very effectively convinced voters he will solve, we kind of like demonize them and reject them. So we're not like providing our own solutions to these problems that a lot of people are openly speaking about. And Trump, whether or not like you think he's kind of offering bullshit, he's not actually offering solutions. The way he's actually like kind of marketing or branding himself or speaking is effectively working, and it's not happening on our side.
Well, yeah,
talks
because our side, I
me.
feel like our side needs to get similar figures. Because I mean, a lot of politicians on the Democrat side are boring as fuck. Like people, it's different than it was 20, 30 years ago, where it was
Isn't
just
that
like,
the
ooh,
problem?
which guy in a suit do you want? It's like, people get hype over Trump, but in a way that it was not really happening on the other
The way
side.
we were hype over Bernie,
Isn't
the
that the
DNC,
problem,
the
though?
DNC
Well,
robbed
I
us
agree
of.
with that.
Hold on, but isn't that really the problem? I think you captured with a Freudian slip exactly the problem. We need to get better speakers and people. These speakers aren't gotten. They're not paid. They're not selected. They're made by their lives, right? Joe Rogan has been a left-leaning, slightly libertarian.
He endorsed
mostly
Bernie
Democratic
Sanders.
Socialist. He
Well,
endorsed
yeah.
Bernie Sanders.
I don't know
He's
about
been
that.
left. But what happened is no one talks about the issues that so many people are facing, and he keeps trying to get left-wing guests, and he brings them on, and then he asks them simple fucking questions, and they break because they're not engaged in reality. He brings on someone's like, well, let's talk about trans issues. And then he's like, well, how does this make sense? And then they just go, back to their fucking programming, because it's exactly how I laid out before. It is a self-referential ideology that doesn't engage in reality and doesn't speak to people. You can't.
Can I have an
Kamala Harris went to fucking at the DNC, right? There was tons of people that were showing you at the DNC that Kamala Harris spent out of this $1 billion that she spent so much of. She was giving $10,000 to TikTokers and being like, give me these deliverables so that you don't have to tell people that I paid you or anything. Just make sure that there's a bunch of TikTok videos supporting me. Here's your talking points. You can't craft a fucking movement with talking points and money. It's made because people have problems and they want solutions to them, and they coalesce behind those problems. You can't manufacture that. Everything about Kamala was manufactured, and everyone saw it as fake. And it didn't matter even if she would have said that she was going to fix some problems, because they knew that she was just bullshitting them. And even though Trump was bullshitting them and still is bullshitting them, he spoke to actual issues, and he has actual like things that, whether you think they work or they don't, that they're actually grounded in the problems that people are facing.
Let's go.
I think it's the manner and the vibes in which people are talking about things more than it is what they're actually speaking about. Because again, I keep hearing this again. God bless, but I keep hearing, oh, she didn't talk about nothing. Oh, she doesn't mention any problems any people have ever. This, that, and the other. I mean, I was listening to, I heard these things. Sorry?
You're adding signifiers that none of us said. Nobody said she didn't talk about anything here. Nobody, like,
well, she didn't talk about anything that people care about, or she didn't. You said that she didn't.
Engaged. I mean, like, look at the border thing. Like, how many times did they ask her specific numbers in that interview, and like she wouldn't give a specific answer? Or like and this is multiple interviews. They'd be like, "What's going on the border? Can you give us specific numbers? How many?" And she'd be like, "Well, that's complicated." They're like, "Okay, just give us a number to start the conversation." She wouldn't even do it. It was like 2-3 interviews, and like, or you go another one. They'd ask her about her economic plan. She'd be like, "Well, I come from a middle class family." Yeah, because it's a repeated thing.
Fake numbers are better than.
She was really bad at answering questions and interviews for sure.
I mean,
let's go to Corey, and then Lactoid, and then me, because I'm gonna blow my top. Corey.
Oh, let's go to you right away. I want to see that. No.
Oh yeah, Ghosty. We can hear someone in the background. Just to let you know. Go ahead.
Well, first, I think maybe Gibbs, you might have been a victim of misinformation or, misleading clipping. But although to be fair, like Kamala did outperform at only 58
I watched all
4,000. No, I'm talking about your claim that she didn't.
I posted the article.
By more than 3%. By more than 3%.
The article's. Hold on, I posted the article.
It's there. I could be mistaken. I didn't, but and also again, to be fair, at least from what I've seen, she did overperform by more than 3%, but only in 58 out of over 4,000 counties. Okay, I put it in the chat.
Good fuck, Gibbs.
Yeah,
anyways,
exactly. So just do your
the source is in there. The source is in there.
I'll double check it.
It's the same clip. You posted one photo of the thing. I posted the full video. I don't want to hear that I got debunked.
Oh, read that. Readers added context. Community notes are there for a reason. Okay, we can go through this another time. But either way, at the end of the day, she lost, and arguably maybe a landslide, but I don't think it's as bad. At least from what I've seen from the most updated popular vote, it's just a difference of 3 million. I think there's a danger of clearly mistakes happened, but there's also the mistake of overcorrecting.
Bro, a Democrat losing the popular vote is a big.
I agree, since that hasn't happened in 20 years.
Losing the popular vote by 3 million.
I said arguably a landslide, but yeah, did I not say arguably a landslide? So I'm pretty sure I said that.
Right? Can I? After you're done, can I restate?
Hold on. No, I do want to move forward. Sorry. Go ahead.
And so, there should be, let's say, soul searching on the Democratic Party. What the actual answer is, I guess we'll find out. But there's the potential of going too much in the wrong way. And there's also the argument of this is This is just like how it's supposed to play out in terms of like I think not Lactoid, Scott was right, and probably Lactoid would share the same sentiment of like the economy plays an important part, and like a victim of inflation that seems to be happening like all over the world in terms of like many incumbent leaders are just like not winning elections, and it's probably destined to happen here in Canada, and so it's like yeah, soul searching should happen, but also like don't overcorrect as well, and like just well, focusing on the economy, like I agree, they're not focusing on that, and there is absolutely a touch of elitism in the Democratic or among liberals. Absolutely, as someone with credentials and a college degree, like those people tend to look down on people without a college degree. That absolutely happens.
Sorry, Han, one thing.
We all have
What
college
do you
degrees,
think?
right?
I don't know. Corey, in what way could the Democrats overcorrect?
For example, like going too much, like because there's the argument of like they should just like reject, whatever the wokeism and all that racism stuff, and like I think that's true, but I don't think they should like ignore it completely. Like yeah, we're just going to denounce every aspect of this, and like yeah, they shouldn't focus on like identity politics, but also they should ignore it either. There's a balance to be struck. Like at the end of the day, like did the Conservative Party do soul searching after 2020? Like no, and there's arguments.
Yeah, they did.
There's arguments to be made.
Obviously.
Well, in retrospect,
Yeah.
okay, I don't know if you would say you would say yeah, you were asked absolutely. So you would encourage Kamala to run again in 2028. Like
They ran the exact same.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you talking to me?
No, I'm talking to the other people.
Okay.
Where
That's
there's the
That's
argument.
not what happened.
Wait, let me get out.
2020, no,
Let me get
2020,
out.
like,
It's my turn.
chance-
Hey,
I'm next,
let's finish
Scott.
up, and then
Don't-
we
don't
gotta.
ask
It's
questions
my
you don't
turn.
want answers to. You asked a rhetorical question thinking
Exactly. So you recognize what a
Now you're mad that
rhetorical
I'm
question is.
answering it.
You'll get
Yeah,
to
he's wrong. You're
later
wrong
on.
on this.
So you do understand what rhetorical means. I'm posing questions.
But it's a
that you're gonna answer
mischaracterization.
later. So I'm glad your comprehension of the English language is intact.
Just calling you out for it.
Yeah, go for
Shitty
it.
tactic.
Okay,
Come on. Let him go.
Okay. And so there's the argument to be made that yes, the DNC is like ideologically captured, okay, and maybe held hostage. But I think the same argument can hold true with the RNC, and it's held hostage or captive by Trump and MAGA Republicans. Like it's the same thing.
Okay, let's go to Lactoid.
Okay, I got a couple of points written down here, and I'm feeling good, so we'll see how good I can make them. I've heard. I'm not going to call you out, Corey, for this because I think you're a genuine guy. But one of the things I've noticed is that people have said this multiple times, whereas it's inflation. You know, there's a trend of leaders losing around the world because of inflation. Okay, it's an understandable point. But all these people, maybe not you, I don't know, I don't recall exactly what you said about your prediction, but all these people were telling me that Harris was going to win by a landslide, knowing that all these other leaders were losing because of inflation. So the question is, like, did you actually appreciate that inflation is going to like sink Kamala's ship, or you were lying when you were saying that you weren't, or is it that you actually didn't know and there's actually other things in play? And I think you can't have your cake and eat it too. There needs to be an answer to that question, right? If inflation is the answer, I don't want to hear any of these people who predicted Kamala to win make this argument because we had this inflation prior to the election. And then on top of that, the people who think it's not inflation, okay, fair enough. Let's go through a little bit of the things here, right? Kamala Harris was a weak candidate. You don't get to have alternative media when you control the media. At that point, it's no longer alternative. Legacy media is owned by the left and has been in this country for a little while now. And it's not even that, like, I hate the word, alternative media doesn't even apply, but they have smaller scale media outlets as well, right? I mean, they have the Young Turks, right? They have Sam Cedar. They have Destiny. They have Hassan, kind of. I mean, we there's all sorts of like major figures that are... There's major figures that are absolutely involved here and, produce content. Yeah, are in each of these specific people going to be as big as Joe Rogan? Probably not. But remember, Joe Rogan's like one of the few major voices like on like the podcasting world. And yes, he does have the biggest one for sure. But again, he was a Bernie Sanders guy beforehand. You guys fumbled that ball. You lost that ball. Why did you lose that ball? Maybe it has something to do with the fact that Kamala Harris didn't even bother to show the fuck up when both Trump and J.D. Vance did. Did Kamala show up? Did Walz show up? Why didn't they show up?
Elon.
Yeah, why? Yeah, and Elon.
Fetterman did.
Oh, sure.
Fetterman did.
Yeah. Give Fetterman
showed up and then stumbled and basically admitted that Joe Rogan's belief that the left was importing voters not only was happening, but that it's a good thing.
Hold on, they're going to lose Fetterman too, right? I'm serious. Like Fetterman is he's a left winger, but like he is pretty open to like saying
he's already
shit.
Gone. What are you talking?
Well, yeah, he's kind of sure. He's already, okay. Last point. I want to disagree a little bit with what Scott said and what you guys said about like the culture war. I do think the culture war matters to some extent. I think that you guys do, like the left sort of dominates the perspective and has since 2014. I've got a lot of data to show this just in terms of what legacy media tends to focus on. Like racism, sexism, etc. tends to be like over-focused on for sure, especially compared to before 2014.
I didn't say it doesn't matter for the record.
Sure, you're right. But maybe just to explain then something you said before, you said like only 4% or something said that it was critical to them. And I agree. People tend to probably
tied.
not.
I think they're tied. I don't think you can separate them.
They're going to be tied, but I think like even if they weren't, just in terms of like what people are reporting, I think that the culture war gives, like we're talking about, like I think Katya, you said like there's a vibe before. I think the culture war is something that generates
it's how people perceive it. Yeah.
Right. I think the culture war is something that generates that vibe. Right. There's a general vibe of this guy is for you or against you, and this woman hates you or is for you, etc. And the culture war, I think, plays into that vibe and plays into the general trustworthiness you associate with somebody. And Kamala Harris, I think she lost that culture war, and it didn't help her because, like, the fact that she was just so uncharismatic. Like, if you're really charismatic, you could win the culture war, right? You could play it. And I think Obama did, but Kamala couldn't.
Mm-hmm. Well, I say they're tied. Just to clarify what I was saying earlier, right? Like, you're a white man. Right. And you have and you live in, some town in Ohio, right? That used to be a manufacturing base. And most of those jobs have shipped farther south where there's less union controls or have shipped overseas. And you're like, please, I need to know, like, what am I going to do? What are we going to do about the economy to keep food on the table, et cetera? And you go to look at the left and you're like, well, what are Kamala's policies? I'm like, well, fuck it. I'll go to her website. I'll read the policies. Let's just say there's this unicorn voter that actually does that. And every single economic policy she has a second paragraph that basically says, yeah, but we're talking about black people, not for the whites. Like, we understand that blacks are the ones that are actually affected by this, not white people. And it's like, oh, okay, so you're running a campaign targeting black people, saying that black people need all this help. Your economic policies are focused towards righting the wrongs of slavery and Jim Crow and oppression of the whites against blacks, and you don't actually have a vision for the economy as a whole because you can't even put on your own fucking website a single economic policy without tying it towards identity politics that aren't about you, the white guy. And then you go to Trump, and Trump's not saying, I'm going to bring back the whites. Trump is saying, I'm going to fix the fucking economy. And it's like, so yeah, the economy is your main issue, and the culture war isn't the main thing you're voting on, but they're tied together in that aspect. When someone can notice that, like, you're being consistently talked about as a problem because of the color of your skin, and the issues that you think are most important to your family aren't being addressed by that candidate. Well, so you might put the economy is my big issue, but the culture war plays a role in that.
No, I'm going next. No, I'm going next. I'm going next because I can't allow you guys on doing this for me, so I got to do it now. Holy shit! Liberals, not leftists. Liberals, not leftists. Let's get this through. All right, let's
go.
So
I'm the only liberal here.
Oh, whatever. I don't care. So liberals, I don't care. I don't care. But anyway, so. You guys keep talking about like the media is owned by the left, but like let's disambiguate what that means. Is it the left writ large, or is it liberal media? If we're gonna say it's liberal media, then I can agree with you. Yes, that's liberal media and liberal talking points, right? And liberal.
They're both left to me.
Yeah, but then you guys get upset because just now you made a distinction, right? And I thought it was like, when I took a moment to think about it, I thought it was a worthwhile distinction talking about Fox News, right? And what kind of right is that, right? You said, hey, well, there's no Christian nationalists on Fox News, and no, I think something else, another category you guys said, right? That you're saying it's a more core world neocon type thing.
I'm actually not correct about that, by the way. They do have Christian nationalists. They just like you're sitting here. They don't watch Fox News, so they wouldn't know. But I can sit here, lame a libertarian, right off the top of my head. That's a prominent member on Fox News. Kat Timp. She's on all their stuff all the time. Gutterfield is one of the biggest people. He's a libertarian, and he's on their biggest show. So they're wrong.
None of them are libertarian.
The point is,
they are libertarian.
The point is that
they're just not whatever you kind of libertarian you are.
An ideology debate?
The point is that you guys can make these distinctions on the right, and it's important to make distinctions, right? On the right, to understand like who you're talking to, right? If I think, for instance, Scott's a Christian nationalist, and I approach him as a Christian nationalist, well, I'm not going to make much headway because I have his ideology wrong, and I can't actually communicate with them, right? So when we're talking about the national media, it is not leftist media. That's crazy talk. That's crazy. It's liberal media.
How do you define leftist?
I'm
curious. I would say I'm the only liberal. So can you give me a definition of liberal and leftist and why you think that these are separate? Because when I say leftist, I mean that they are undergirded by leftist philosophy, right? Just because one person is more leftist than the other because they're a full-blown communist versus, let's say, a Rachel Maddow that buys into queer theory, which is explicitly neo-Marxist, that buys into critical race theory elements that is explicitly neo-Marxist, that is Marxism brought in via Antonio Gramsci's prison papers, countercultural hegemonic strategy in the Frankfurt School to bring this into the social domain. What the fuck are you talking about when you say those aren't leftists? It confuses me.
Sure. Well, I'd be talking about more economic leftists. I mean, in terms of social, yes.
An average person thinks a leftist is not you.
In terms of I guess the social discussions and the culture war type thing, then there is more mixing there happening, but that perfectly fits in within the liberal matrix, right? Like the liberals are fine with taking on these performative culture war fights because no power is actually given. The economic structures don't actually change. What leftists actually pushing to change actually are the socialists and the communists and the whatnot. But that's not the standpoint you ever get from a liberal media,
right? Like you're describing Marcuse. You're not describing liberals.
Sorry,
you're not describing Enlightenment values of freedom of speech.
Please, hold on, please. I'm gonna hold on.
Leftists.
I let you finish.
Cool.
Let me finish. I got a whole bunch of points to go through here. All right, we'll talk about. We can talk
You're
about this.
asking all these rhetorical questions. That's why Scott is talking.
Right, so
All
I
these
think the
rhetorical.
problem here is
No. Stop.
Can we use colloquial definitions?
Stop. Hold on. I'm gonna continue on. All right. So yeah, liberal media, not leftist media, and that is very important, right? And so you guys mixing. You have TYT, right? TYT is online. That's left, right? Yeah, I would call that leftist or progressive any which way. They don't really call themselves leftist. But progressive media, sure, but they are in opposition to the liberal media. These two don't get along. They don't agree, right? And like most of what TYT talks about is how bad the liberal media is. That's where most of their fire ends up going, because they don't actually represent the vast majority of Americans, at least in my opinion there. But yeah, other people might disagree. But in any case, so like let's make that distinction. Now there is some more liberal alternative media, right? Like Pod Save America, right? Those guys definitely liberal alternative media. Yeah, they certainly exist. But there's that. And how to grow that. So Katja was talking about like how do we grow this media on the left? Again, we use disambiguate what we're talking about here. To do that, right, we would need like politicians and leaders, right, like IRL leaders to come on these shows. That's something that the right absolutely did, right? Like they had like a healthy relationship. Well, maybe not healthy, but anyway, they have a relationship with these people, and they get them to come on their shows to promote them and all that, and that helps grow. And it helps legitimize them in the eyes on the
on their shows.
In the eyes of the audience. Hold on, but this is why again it's important to tell the difference, because you will see those politicians on something like Pod Save America, right? And David Pakman, who's like fairly left, he's a very liberal type, David Pakman. Like those individuals will get there because they're never challenged. They're always softball. There's nothing. It's just like going on to NBC or CNN and never being actually challenged there, right? So they're perfectly willing to do that, but not leftist media. They don't go on there, and that's why that section is anemic. I've literally been talking about this for years on this specific thing. Like if like AOC. Going to say it, right? AOC.
She's pregnant. I said it. She's so obviously pregnant.
I don't know. Don't care. AOC.
Tell us already, all right?
It's not by me, so
Is he the father?
But Nanny,
you heard it here first. It was Prime.
Just saying.
Oh my god!
A week or two ago.
Oh my god!
All of a sudden, she's gotten a tiny.
If
little
it
bit
was,
chunky.
if it
she's
was
asking about right-wing media outlets and
if
podcasts. She
it
wants to listen to right-wing podcasts.
was me, holy crap! You wouldn't get me to
What?
stop shutting up about that. If I actually pulled AOC, I mean, let me tell you. But the AOC and the squad in general, right? They're supposed to be progressives, right? They're supposed to be leftists. Where have they been on leftist media? They haven't. They've been on liberal media. They were on TYT at the start, right? And other leftist shows. But as soon as they got comfortable with power, as soon as they got pulled into Nancy Pelosi's orbit, right? Well, then all that ended. And then when leftists had issues with them and were being vocal about the issues, about their tactics and all that, all of a sudden they didn't show up anymore. Same for Bernie Sanders too. Bernie Sanders will be on liberal media. He hasn't been on leftist media. There's a difference here, and if you ignore that difference, then you're ignoring what's actually happened. So I get it on the right that you guys don't necessarily care so much about these differences, but those differences exist. And if you don't understand that,
you
can't.
lefties are all the same to us.
You know that. Hold on. No, that's not fair. You know that I obviously understand that there's a difference.
Okay, great. Well, then okay. So what I'm responding to is the fact that you guys kept saying left, and I'm saying that left
of me. Left of me.
Yeah, it's left of me.
Great.
Listen,
Okay.
No, I'm not gonna listen because I got more. Hey, I got more things to say. All right, don't worry. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So
don't engage with your points. Just say make so many of them that they.
Thank you. Good. I'm glad you're on my mode now. I'm glad you understand what's happening. Thank you. Yeah. Any which way, grassroots media on the right. That's interesting. So I mean, I can't deny that certainly some of that exists. But the right has had billions of dollars, not billions, I'm sorry, millions of dollars. Well, actually, maybe billions. They're talking include Fox News, right? If you include the money, like Fox News burned, I think it was a few billion.
You can't include Fox News with all of the right. If you're going to say that I can't include the liberal media with the left.
And that's why
all rally behind Donald Trump.
If you include Fox News, if you don't want to include them, that's fine. Any which way, right? But I was making a distinction between media and alternative media, right? So I would say Fox News is media, right? Like traditional media, and then I was comparing that to alternative media. But there's the billionaires on the right, the big money donors on the right, have actually paid these individuals, some of these individuals, and help get these outfits off the ground. Right? Like Dave Rubin is a perfect example of this. Dave Rubin, who had left the Young Turks, and he was failed comedian. All of a sudden, he shows up on this channel, right, with excellent production value straight from the start, with a mansion very soon after that, if not immediately, very soon after that. He shows up and starts pretending he's on the left, and I don't know, I'm a lapsed leftist here, but like, you know, what's happening there is crazy, right? And you know, the right makes so many good points. It makes so many points, but I'm actually, he does this whole little song and dance.
They do. Thank you.
Yeah, he does this whole little
singing and dancing.
Song and dance. With extremely well financed project, right? Like,
didn't Kamala raise more money? Prime
Turning Point US. Oh, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. Absolutely. Thank you. Yes.
We want to talk about overall value of media and which way it leans. We can talk about that.
Hold on. No, wait a minute. But Lactoid, you are confusing
liberal for leftist. My bad. Yeah.
Well, yes, actually, you are. First of all, you are. There is not nearly that kind of money in leftist media.
No,
it simply doesn't exist.
When it benefits them, then
it's
because you're all part of co-ops, and none of you like. There needs to be some corporate power behind like the media, right? And yes, I know you're saying we're separate from them, but like they're leftist to us because they are part of your group. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but hold on. But no. Hold on. I'm sorry. I won't take that from a libertarian who gets highly upset when you characterize them, right?
I don't get upset. Scott does.
Really butthurt.
Scott called me a socialist, and I took it in stride. Okay, I don't get ass pained about this.
He is a socialist, though. You know.
Look, I respectfully disagree. But I'm not going to get my panties in a twist about it.
Okay, sure. Anyway, hey, I see your hand, Gibbs. Like, I already see that. But fuck, what was I saying?
Getting things mistaken. They were saying.
Turning Points USA is another outfit, right? Plenty of money coming in from big Republican donors. That's the thing that's happening. And there's no equivalent on the left. There is on the liberal media. You get corporate sponsorship, but the leftist point of view is to deconstruct the power of a billionaire, right? There's like one or two who like had given, but you have to remember, like the leftist message undermines their power, their position. So you won't find a lot of them here. On the right, which venerates these individuals, right? Not maybe all the libertarians, maybe not, maybe ANCAPs would say differently, right? But on the right, in general, the corporate friendly right, yes, you will find plenty of billionaire money, and that's what supercharged them.
It's exactly the same thing on the right. Like Nick Fuentes was fucking. I don't like him. I don't like his ideology, right? But he would be an example of people that sit beyond what you would consider the center-right perspective. Obviously,
I agree.
He's banned off of every social media platform.
I agree.
He wasn't given a voice in a ton of different places. Like you're describing a process that happens on the left, and that also exactly happens.
I said some people on the right as well. Yeah.
Right. But when we say
I agree with you.
The left dominates it, then all of a sudden you go, oh no. Those are liberals. It's something totally different from the left. The left is this other small thing. So it's like, okay, so you're saying that Kamala Harris doesn't have a coalition of the left, that there's actually this centrist Democrat party and centrist Democrat billionaires, and then there's this tiny little pocket of oppressed leftists, but the right is this big coalition, but they're all the right. Like you.
Oh no, I didn't. No, I literally did not say that. I said the opposite. I made pains to say the opposite. I made pains to say, hey, the right has a bunch of.
I'm talking about the logic of your argument.
There are many different segments there, and I said not at the very start. Well, yes, I recognize there are some grassroots on the right, but there's simply a lot more money sloshing around there. I didn't say everyone has access to it. Didn't say that either.
More money sloshing around on the left. That is an insane.
They use it poorly.
Not when we're talking about. Not when we're talking about. No, when we're talking about corporate media.
Not when you manage to separate the left into multiple categories.
Yeah, hold on.
More money.
I'm not doing the same thing. No, I'm not being unfair. I agree with you when we're talking about corporate media, right? On the of course you can. Corporate media on the left, then yes, there's a lot more money. Agreed, right? Overall, right? But when we're talking about alternative media, so maybe I didn't make that division clear. So maybe that's my fault. So let me be very clear. When we're talking about alternative media on the right, yes, far more money than you'll find on the left, specifically
because
leftists.
Because the left has the like you're talking about, like legacy media is the left. If you turn on your TV, it is left-wing.
It's liberals, yes, indeed. I agree. I've said that already. Okay,
right,
understood.
So
but they're not leftists.
You are right. You are right in saying that the right's money is in alternative media, but that's because that's the only media they have access to.
Whatever. I didn't say otherwise. Did I say otherwise? I don't know why.
Newsmax is alternative. Okay.
It's on cable.
You guys can decide that on your own.
Barely.
I didn't. I said they hold water from time to time. I didn't say they were the rights media.
I'm not sure.
So that you can
I'm not sure I should make this case, but
I mean, no,
yeah, like we saw. Just to be clear, we did see. And I think we're talking about like putting all this money into the alternative media space on the right. I think a lot of it actually did have something to do with Gamergate. We had Steve Bannon who saw like the energy that was there for Gamergate and thought that it could be harnessed. He talked about this. It's like, yeah, I watched Gamergate. Like I was in these discussion rooms and I realized, yes, there's something to tap into. I think he raised money to actually do just that, to find individuals who would do just that. But again, not saying that there aren't some people who came up and did it by themselves, put up themselves by their own bootstrap. Maybe Lawrence Southern was one of those people. I don't know, right? I'm not pointing out which one.
Some news guys.
The ones on the right in that case. But just saying that there was specific plans made for that. Okay. Joe Rogan, not left. Joe Rogan is populist. Joe Rogan is a populist, right? So Joe Rogan, not left. So you can say, well, he endorsed Bernie Sanders. Yeah, hold on. Let me even hold on. Oh my God, Scott, shut up for a second. I literally just started the point.
Because I literally just
started the point. Let me say the point, and then maybe later you can respond to the point if you want to respond to the point. Okay. In which way? Joe Rogan, he's a populist, right? And you say, well, Bernie, he endorsed Bernie. Well, yeah, because Bernie is a populist too, right? And this is a credit to Bernie. Bernie's message appealed to people across the political spectrum, right? So people who would not have voted Democrat otherwise were going to vote for him. They were attracted to his message. And the Democrats, sabotaged Bernie and killed that possibility. Katya, I see your hand. They saw that and they sabotaged him from actually being the nominee. And that was a loss. That was a huge loss. And that's why we were in the situation we're in. So, like, going back to, I forget who said it previously. One of the problems with Kamala is that, yes, her and the Democratic Party writ large have abandoned the working class. They've abandoned it. They talk about the middle class all the time, right? Talking about like we want strong middle class policies or whatever the fuck, right? But they abandon the working class, and we see that in the election results. The working class has absolutely fled, and we might be seeing a permanent political realignment towards the right of the working class. Now, I don't think the right has anything to offer them. I think it has zero to offer them. All they have is resentment to offer them.
We got the Mexicans too this time.
You did. It's amazing. I have a video clip about that, and it is fucking wild what these voters think. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to be yelling at the
Republicans are the party of diversity now. Basically.
I'm not the Arabs too.
Okay. And party of women. Joy. But yeah, so
now you are, I'm sure.
So in any case, right? It's Democrats who have lost them. It's not simply because of racism or sexism and that nonsense, right? I mean, that actually does play a role because we live in America. Absolutely, racism exists here, right? Even Black Joe wants to deny it. But there is definitely a fact that these people were gettable. Bernie was proving they were gettable. They were part of the Democratic coalition previously, but they've abandoned them, and that was a problem. Then finally, actually two things. One, Kamala, like she had like a plan that was like a small set of goals for like maybe some sort of race-based priorities, but like Kamala went through great pains to not run as a black woman or as an Indian woman or as a woman in general. She didn't want to do any of those identity politics. Yeah, actually, she went through great. Yeah. She didn't talk about that shit at all. She went out of her way not to do that. Absolutely. On the right, they just like say this all the time, right? Oh, she's running on identity politics. She literally was not. She saw what happened to Hillary Clinton, and she was not going to do the same thing, right? So there's plenty to criticize Kamala Harris on, and don't worry, I'll do it, right? She's a disgusting genocide apologist.
She did do the same thing. She lost,
and I'm glad she lost. Fuck Kamala Harris.
She did the Hillary Clinton hot sauce in my bag swag when she was pandering for different black states to different black state. It was
Ollie's right.
She said.
I didn't hear what that.
She definitely washes greens in her.
She was doing accent to accent. She was matching the accent of the state that she was in, depending on the black voters that she was talking to.
That's just code switching. It's fucking natural.
Yeah, politicians do that all the time. Whatever. Yeah.
People do that all the time. Like,
yeah,
I do that.
Yeah.
Code switching.
Not when Tarantino does it. It comes across as very awkward.
It's a little different.
She might be a little bit more egregious about it, and maybe it's played up to a certain degree. But no, the thing here is that like when the Republicans say, right, that Kamala Harris ran an identity politics campaign, they are not saying that in her canned interview responses and written speeches that she was constantly running an identity politics game. What they are saying is that Kamala Harris has a campaign, right? Discord servers, Kamala HQ, tons of paid media outlets. Mm-hmm. And yes, she sent her attack dogs to play people that were paid by the DNC to play identity politics while she pretended to be above it and pretend to unify, and everyone knew it was fake. Like when they did that photo op with her niece at the speech, and they had her niece sit directly underneath her so that they could take a picture of her with her black braids, and then Dana Bash was like, "Oh, don't you think that photo, really represents something about, black women and what it means to be black and what it means to be woman for?" And she was like, "Oh, well, I'm actually running for everyone." Like you have a campaign that is intentionally.
I mean, what? She just took a picture of her family member.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, hold on. Your example, she took a picture with a family member.
It was it was like a movie poster.
I don't understand. Help me understand.
It wasn't like
there's a photo, right, with her giving a speech at an event.
Okay.
And then her nieces sat in the middle in the front row.
Okay.
And then they hired a professional photographer to specifically take a picture that they were going to put out as part of their media blitz. That was like her with her braids from the back of her head looking up at Kamala at the future, right?
Okay.
And then they utilized this in multiple interviews where they were like bringing up this photo and how powerful it was as a woman and as a black woman and what it means. And then she had a canned response about like, yes, of course it does matter and that would be a great thing, but I'm here for everybody. What I'm saying is, yes, you are correct that in her speeches and interviews, she wasn't like, you need to vote for me because I'm black. What I'm saying is her fucking policies mention identity multiple times. That she has a paid campaign where they gathered $1 billion, where they paid social media influencers. I mean, DNC had a Discord server where they had thousands of people specifically working on how to manipulate community notes program so that they could tell lies and bullshit on Twitter on X without being community noted so that people would believe these things. They had a massive campaign and tons of people working, and many of those people that we know are paid, that are big like Twitter accounts, etc., were pushing identity politics, but there's plausible deniability. They are trying to force identity politics while acting like they're not playing identity politics.
All right. That's an interesting perspective. All right, fair enough. But anyway, the point is not to defend the Kamala Harris campaign. Like, again, fuck her. I'm glad she lost. I'm not glad that Trump won, but she's a filthy genocide apologist, and she got what she deserved. But anyway, finally, There's and then I'll go to Gibbs. Was it Corey? Then Katya, and
I
okay.
have my headphones on. I'm just using the restroom.
Sure. There seems like to be a loss in like 10 million or so votes. Like the difference between Trump and Kamala might be like in the end like 3 million votes or something. But like there's missing votes from the previous election. People who just like didn't come out this time. And my vote will be one of the missing ones, right? I actually did submit a ballot, but I didn't vote for
It's all your fault. It's all on you.
It is well, that's what they'll do.
He
They'll
didn't
blame-
win. She lost. That's
they'll-
like the like. There's a difference here. She missed out on a bunch of votes.
Yeah,
It's not that he won.
I'll hold off on that because there's some interesting data about like the swing states and about like the vote breakdowns there. So I'll hold off on exactly what happened there. But in any case, the point is that the Democratic Party, this has been going on for decades, right? At least since Bill Clinton. Some people say since Jimmy Carter, but the realignment of the party away from the working class and towards the middle class and really, honestly, the moneyed upper class. For their donors. Yes, Kamala raised $1 billion goddamn dollars to bring up what Lactoid talked about. She raised $1 billion goddamn dollars. Why? Because she would absolutely be a corporate lackey. 100%, right? She was piling around the billionaires with Mark Cuban, her best friend, right? And the other billionaire
who deleted his post, by the way. Mark Cuban went and deleted all of his posts supporting her. That's so sad.
That's hilarious. But that's how shallow his support was, right? Like, oh, now that Trump is in charge, he'll go and suck Trump's dick. Absolutely. He didn't give a fuck about any of that. The only problem with Trump is that Trump is a bit rude for him. That's all. But like in terms of economically, well, he's perfectly fine with what's going to happen there. He would have been happy with Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris has shown time and time again that the only thing that matters to her and the party in general. I don't lay this fully on Kamala Harris. I don't lay this fully on Kamala Harris's feet, but it's the entire Democratic establishment, the liberal establishment, has reoriented itself, and it takes orders from those big money donors, and it doesn't push policies that challenge them at all. In fact, if anyone who does challenge them, like a Bernie Sanders, they do everything they can to crush them. So I'm just saying there's a difference here, and that I believe this was a maybe not this election because Biden got out too late. It was Biden really fucked Kamala Harris 3 ways to Sunday. It's really bad. But I believe that if this had been a more of a normal cycle, that Trump was imminently beatable. And the Democrats have dropped the ball in so many ways. Okay, now I'm done. So we're going to go to Admiral Gibbs, Corey, Katya, and yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that like one of y'all mentioned earlier, like did the Republicans do soul searching after Trump lost? And yeah, I got to say, I think they did. You know, we saw this. So I think looking back at 2022, right? You know, where this red wave didn't materialize, it was a red ripple. I think we should actually looked at that more favorably now, looking back. I think they still did well despite abortion being such a hot button issue at the time, which was really a poison pill for them. And I think it's because Republicans adapted and changed their message. They became less like on certain issues. While the Dems here have not done all that, right? It's all well and good what y'all are talking about, but it doesn't matter what the media, the left, the libs, media-wise or candidate-wise have if they don't fix their biggest issues, which I think is the elitism. Even in alternative media, the left doesn't want to include outside opinions or thoughts that are aren't critical to their agenda, right? I've been engaging with this for a little while now. This is where I'm at, right? It's purposeful elitism versus this inherent elitism. At first, I thought it was purposeful that these people don't want to hear about these issues that matter to people now because it's just not important to them. Now I'm thinking it's actually inherent elitism. They can't even factor that in that any issues but theirs matter. It's actually narcissism on a national level, which not only they think the average person will stop and ignore their problems that are affecting them every day, but they'll be gaslit and believe these other issues that are literally going to start even more important to them. Even in these debate spaces, I can tell you how many times I brought up an issue and it's either laughed at, I'm told it doesn't exist, it's called insane, and generally just dismissed out of hand. And I can pull up local news stories talking about the issue being an issue to people, and people vote local. Fabian hit the nail on the head earlier when people saying people are going to go vote for what's happening to them in their neighborhood. It's just common sense. Instead, instead of like listening to this, though, the Dems are sitting here going after each other. They're saying, "Oh, we're dismissing even more of this." They're saying the voters are stupid. It's racism. It's just the idea that their data could be wrong or that they're elitist is just foreign to them. And until they stop blaming others for their loss, they're going to keep losing. And they need to do an introspective look at themselves. And that's what they're not doing.
Falling back to their axioms.
Yeah, that's the problem here.
America is a white supremacist nation. Why did we lose? Well, I can't actually challenge my worldview. I have to just double down on the fact that America is a white supremacist nation.
But they expect their conservatives to challenge the worldview every day. Like, they're like, "Oh, well, your worldview is evil and whatever." Like, "Oh, so you need to conform." And they're like, "Well, bro, I'm trying to get some milk today, or I need to get gas. Gas is $3. They're like, "Well, you're an evil Christian white man. You deserve to pay $3 gas." Give me a break.
Specifically, said white people need to pay more money.
I've heard it. You act like I haven't heard it.
I'm sure you've heard everything.
But that's a lot of straw men.
Let's go to Corey and then Katja.
I mean, the evidence seems to support.
And then I want to hear if Dibby has to say something as well before we move on to the main topic.
Well, just for the sake of transparency, I do want to address Lactoid because he posed some questions to me. So when I made the claim of Harris might have just been destined to lose because leaders are losing all over the world, that is absolutely me doing a retrospective. As in, I didn't have that information at that time, so I will not own that point. This was I didn't have that information at that time. And also in terms of my predictions, I think my predictions probably maybe on Scott's VOD from last week. I assume, I don't actually know, but I did say I was mildly confident that Harris would win. Where I think I gave an actual percentage of 55.
You said that you thought that Gen Z was being undercounted, and that
Gen Z
was definitely the most pro Kamala that any other generation has been, and it turned out to be the exact opposite, which is that
I haven't seen
the alternative media and the social media landscape.
Whoa, yeah, whoa. Wait. So I haven't looked at the exit polls and the demographic breakdown. Are you saying that Trump won Gen Z percentage-wise?
No. What I'm saying is when you compare 18 to 30-year-olds, right, from previous elections, that especially the males, but of those that chose to come out and vote, right? Because obviously we're not counting those in exit polls that didn't vote.
That wasn't
those that chose to vote. Those had swung more right wing than they have since Reagan.
Yeah, but that wasn't the claim that I made. I was wrong in the sense that I thought Gen Z would show up, in similar numbers to 2020, but I was wrong about that. And I can totally own that. But I also think it's fair to say that my assessment that Gen Z pretty much largely favors Harris is still true, and the numbers bear that out. Pretty heavily.
18 to 30-year-olds always favor the left, right? As you get old and you get a job and you get business experience and you have to pay taxes and you understand how things work and you have to feed a family and you gain wisdom, you stop being a fucking socialist unless you're a loser or you have mental problems.
True, especially as you get older. There's definitely no mental problems and the cognitive decline. It never happens.
It never happens.
Yeah, never. You're absolutely right.
I'm sorry, I'm just going off the talking points to the left with Joe Biden the entire time he was president.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was never really defending Joe Biden all that heavily. I thought, and I was wrong, but I wasn't super strong or confident that it would be somewhat of a repeat of what we were seeing from. I only had 2 data points, of 2020 and 2022 of Gen Z and largely women showing up. I thought incorrectly that they would show up for 2024, and I was wrong about that, and I have no problem saying that. But I also was super confident. We had the conversation we recognize that
true. You were not super confident.
And I fully put it on the table of
was the only one confident in a landslide. Right?
I said it.
I don't know.
And I fully acknowledge the point that Scott made, that I agree with that. Harris comes off as scripted. Okay, I didn't see that as an inherently bad thing, but I understand why other people would be she has pre-prepared talking points that they obviously don't resonate with the people.
Let's go to Katja. I'll be right back. I got to deal with an alien in my house. Go ahead.
Right. So I just think that a lot of the situation is that basically Trump and just in general, a lot of the landscape has changed. A lot of what people look for has changed. Obviously, scripted stuff, decorum, this, that, and the other, kind of a lot more couched rhetoric, a lot more, careful wordage and stuff like that is just really not in fashion. I mean, I think that people do need somebody that they can rally behind, and I understand why people chose Trump, especially in retrospect. That was the main thing. I was come on y'all, about all these Democratic candidates for the longest time, because it's like it's the rhetoric. I understand where the elitism is coming from, because I do see it in the rhetoric. A lot of how like everything's got to be like civility time, everything's got to be super above board. Like, not saying below board is good, but like Trump's rude, Trump's mean, Trump says funny shit, Trump says what he's thinking. I see the appeal there. Plenty of people do. And irregardless of if what he's saying is true or if it's going to help the people have that perception. And I think that that's something that was majorly discounted by a lot of the left and Democrats in general. Also,
sorry. I was going to piggyback.
No, I was just going to address Lactoid. I'm sorry. So yeah, I in regards to your thing that you said earlier about the incumbents or whatever, yeah, I'm going to answer to kind of myself with that argument with the incumbents losing. Corey,
with the inflation? Okay, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, with the inflation. Yeah, I was kind of a little bit America tunnel vision. I actually had no idea that these incumbents had lost. Well, I here's the thing. No, I didn't have no idea. I had no idea on the aggregate. Like, I would hear, oh, somebody different won in this country. Oh, somebody, okay. I never put the dots together. So, I mean, once I figured that, I was like, oh, okay.
Well, hold on real quick. But I think the reason why you didn't know is because they didn't tell you. And, by the way, I don't even know if it's true or not. I haven't fact-checked this claim. It could be true. Seriously, it could be true. It could be true that like incumbents were getting shellacked because of inflation. It's just possible.
Well, they were for some reason.
Potentially. But like I don't have a list in front of me of which leaders lost their re-election campaign because of inflation. I just don't have that.
And the exact data on why.
And the exact data on why. Like, I have looked at like European some of the polling data, or election results recently, and there's like some surprises, but not all of them. Like, there's a lot of countries in Europe where like the incumbents did win, and you absolutely do see this now. I think the question is like, if it is the case, well then, that's interesting, I suppose. But then the question becomes, well, why didn't all the people who now found out about it now, why did they find out about it now? Who was hiding this from you beforehand?
You can respond quickly, Scott, but then I also want to get to Doobie before we move on.
So, how do you say your name? Katyusha? How do you say your name?
Yeah, just say Katya. Katya's fine.
Where'd you get the Sha from?
I don't see any SH.
They're both distributed forms of a Katarina.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So anyways, so like one of the things that I think the Democrats don't understand about the social media landscape and how it's changed, right? And maybe I shouldn't give you guys the intel that you need to win, but whatever. I want fucking liberalism back in the fucking Democrats. You know what I mean? So maybe if you come back, I'll vote for you. But so one of the things that I think people don't understand is that like, because one of the major changes in the social media landscape is that when you give interviews and you go out on podcasts and you do all of these things, right? People online are doing these reaction videos, and they're talking about the things that have said, and they're seeing videos from multiple different sources. And so like the old school, Kamala ran a campaign that worked in the 1990s and before, right? Which is, okay, when they ask you this question, this is your answer. When they ask you this question, this is your answer. And that worked in 1990 and before, because people would tune in for the nightly news and maybe watch a 60 Minutes interview. But now that your Univision interview and your 60 Minutes interview and your, Call Her Daddy podcast and all of these multiple sources are there, what you see is the people that are politically engaged, they just roll their fucking eyes and go, oh yeah, I was born middle class. They hear you say the same 10 talking points over and over and over again, and they know that you're fake and that you're full of shit and that nothing that comes out of your mouth is the truth. When they see Trump, it's not about his brashness. It's not about the fact, some of that is true, right? I think there are a group of men that feel like they have been left out of the American dream because some white dudes
he tells it like it is.
Yeah, I think there is some of that. He tells like it is. But here's the thing is, if I watch Trump on Joe Rogan, and then I watch Trump talk to the black journalist, and I watch Trump give a speech, I'm going to get different words, different phrases, different answers and sometimes even different fucking policies that are contradicting, right? But what I'm not going to get is a scripted, exact same response. When Kamala Harris wanted Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn to come talk to her, because it wasn't that she just said no, she said, you have to come to me. I have to have these questions scripted. She was still trying to play a 1990s game. And it wasn't that Joe Rogan was like, fuck you. We do a 3-hour podcast and we talk like regular humans. That's what the largest podcast in the world wants, is regular conversations that last 3 hours. The left are so used to legacy media that is working on the same old tired script of like, hard balls and, we're going to bring someone in for 5 minutes and they're going to have a back and forth. And then I'm going to give a 2-minute speech and then I'm going to cut to commercial. And then I'm going to bring on another show that's going to tell you the same fucking stories that the last show just fucking told you. It's like there is a substantive difference between the way that alternative media puts out information and the way that legacy media puts out information. And as our population ages and there are more and more people that are more and more engaged with alternative media, even if the alternative media is right wing or left wing, the way that the Democrats were running their media campaign showed them to be fake and scripted. And so it completely destroys any trust on anything that you say.
So,
right, which I feel like the big problem is like it on the left, as we call it, you have kind of two camps. This is the way I'm going to say it. I'm not going to say left liberal, blah, 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 because we're going to have that discussion again. There are two groups. One, the legacy media group who does scripted stuff, 1990 style campaign, blah, 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 but they are for electoral politics. And then there's another major camp that is left-wing, alternative media, this, that, and the other. But they're like, we need to diverge from the party. We need to do our own thing. We need to vote third party. We need to do that. While both on the other side are rallying behind Donald Trump. Like, I think that's a big difference or a big issue here.
Or was that just hyper made that way because of Israel Palestine? Like, I feel like in previous elections, people that were leftists, right? People that were avowed communists, right? If you want me, right? Avowed communists, or people that were like, I'm a democratic socialist, right? That were alternative media, Twitch streamers and things like that. They would still tacitly support the Democrats because the right was evil. And it feels like, maybe I'm wrong because this isn't necessarily my echo chamber, but it feels like that shift and that split and that like, I'm glad the left or I'm glad the liberals lost is bigger because of the Israeli-Palestine conflict.
I agree that it's bigger, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely always existed. Little background, I've been all over the political spectrum in my life, but I used to be a Marxist-Leninist Maoist, and back when I was on the far left.
Too.
Or haven't we all been?
You're not a Maoist. Fuck off.
I've always been
the same. I was a tanky in high school.
I was a tanky.
I knew it. He was a socialist. I knew he was a socialist the whole time.
Operative term was. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
I was never political.
4 years. But during my tanky times,
I was a hippie.
Most people in those spheres, as well in like the Democratic Socialist zone, that weren't like the Bernie Bros, like the people further left than that, there was the Bernie Bros that were supporting a Democratic candidate because he was running as a Democrat, but that didn't really extend too far beyond just Bernie. Maybe AOC, but it was like this small group. And then you had the people who were further left than that, who were like, America is like basically America bad, inherently evil, this, that, and the other, like systems rigged, no point in voting because they're capitalists. Like that was like always a big thing. I think it spread further. It kind of leached out throughout the Israel-Palestine situation. It got a lot further in this election than it did in previous, but this has been a problem.
Yeah, so I
the people that I hate America
spend too much time on this.
Western hegemonic power that supports capitalism throughout the world. Like that has always been a very, very small.
Yeah. Hold on, but I agree with your point there, but that like there has been an anti-electoralism strain within the left, and like that dam has exploded because of Israel Palestine. To like it seems in stark terms that literally no matter where you look, you're left or the right, there's no difference. Like that idea of the uniparty
That's why some of
has
these Senate and
strengthened.
House seats
So
have gone Democrat, even though the counties went for Trump, because there are
Yeah.
definitely at least some portion. I mean, you could claim voter fraud, whatever, but I would think that there's at least some portion of people that are like, "Fuck it, I'll vote Jill Stein, but I'll vote for Democrat for my Senate."
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah,
it seems
exactly.
Like I mean, it seems
So-
like a fairly rational explanation as why, like Carrie Lake lost Arizona, for example.
It's hilarious, actually, that she still lost. In this red wave, that's like absolutely.
It's pretty embarrassing,
The
yeah.
best. It's
I
fucking
mean, it also
humiliating.
did take 4 days to count the votes, which is, but you know,
Yeah, it's very weird. But anyway, just the point, being that. Oh, the last point I was going to say here is that, like, especially in this time of political realignment, the thought that even more people on the left flank are leaving electoralism. I'm telling you, the Democrats are in the most dangerous position they've been in generations. If this is more a permanent realignment. Oh, let me say something quickly before I go to Doobie. I was just reading an article.
to continue eating itself.
I was just reading an article talking about, speaking of Israel Palestine, Michigan, right? Talking about the Muslims in Michigan, talking about all these people who had never voted for Republican, voting for them this time, voting for Trump. There was apparently, like in the 90s and previously, Muslims in general did vote right, but then 9/11 happened, and then that changed that. So then became Democrats, and now we might be seeing another realignment back, right? Not that
I mean, they're religious
Trump
conservatives,
cares about
right?
these
Like,
individuals.
9/11
Yeah.
and the war in Iraq is
No,
what
it's
pushed them away
fiscal.
from
It's fiscal. At
Republicans.
the end of the day, if at the end of the day they think it's a uniparty and they're like both sides aren't going to help us overseas, well, fuck it. I mean, let's vote for the side that promises less taxes.
Yeah. It's like
A lot of small business owners.
There's a lot of well, I mean, there's a lot of betrayal and hurt in it one way or the other. No matter how you put it, there's betrayal and hurt.
Shout out to Scott Pressler, a gay man, for making sure that Pennsylvania was won by the Republicans by bringing out the Amish. Like, you want to talk about soul searching and realignment? Like, the Republicans have certainly put in work.
I don't know what you're talking about.
We are the party of
anyway,
diversity.
so yeah. I think that if this isn't addressed, right, if Democrats walk away from this thinking that it was just because the other side or the people who didn't vote for them are racist
voters.
and sexist, right? If it's just to yell, if it's just like what you saw in The View, right, with Sunny Hostin and Whoopi Goldberg. I haven't heard from her yet, but I'm sure she's going to prove herself to be the low IQ woman that she generally has been over all these years. If that and others, we see Democratic operatives, we've seen a Democrat politician say that, hey, it was only because of, well, the woke stuff too, that's nonsense as well, but also like because everyone was sexist and racist. Yes, then we're looking at even bigger loss next time, right? We have to come up with bold economic policies. It worked before, and so what previously attracted the working class, and we just have to do it again. But they don't want to because that money is too good. That money they get, the donor money, $1 billion she raised in like 3 months. She broke records. Right? And I'm sure that money will keep her. Well, she lost it all. But it would have kept her. It would have kept her warm. In the months after she leaves the Naval Observatory, right? Make room for JD Vance and drop the keys on your way out. Anyway, Doobie, if you have any thoughts on this.
I don't know. I think obviously there are a lot of factors, a lot of ways that the election was shifted one way or the other. I think that we've all probably got like a little bit of bias, and our pet issue is going to feel like the bigger one, right, to us. I was talking to Lactate about this earlier, actually. Like, I've just been talking to, because most of my family are Democrats, right? Just like lifelong Democrats, if they're political at all, right? If they pay attention to politics at all. And I've spoken to some of them about it, and a lot of them didn't go out and vote, and we're in California, so really doesn't matter, like at the end of the day. But they always, I know that they used to go out and vote. Like my grandmother used to sit and watch the fucking debate, even though she knew. I think I told you the guys the story that she thought Obama was the Antichrist, but she voted for him anyway because he's a Democrat, right? Like it's that kind of thing. And a lot of them just didn't vote, and I was talking to them about why, and it was a lot of shit. Right, I think it was like the trans stuff. And I think that ad the Republicans put out about Obama, she's for they them, Trump's for us or whatever, you and us. But the thing about like the trans children thing, I think that was big for a lot of people, especially like older people, or like religious people. I think that for younger people, like my cousins that I spoke to, and like some people that I know like around my age, who either didn't vote or they voted third party or they voted for Trump, right? And these are not like Republican people. The sense that I get from them, I mean, what they told me, most of them told me, is that inflation is a big thing, obviously, but there was like a demoralization in terms of like feeling like we're the good guys, right? There's like this narrative that Americans have that we're the good guys in the world, and we do the right thing, and we have to be the world police. That's because other countries.
Exceptionalism.
Yeah, there's like this general like narrative or feeling that Americans have about how we operate in the world, and of course it's way more nuanced and complicated than that. America's done lots of bad things, sure, but this is a feeling that I think a lot of people have, and I think that for at least the people that I've spoken to, that has been degraded a lot over the last like year and a half, but it's especially by the Israel-Gaza thing. And the pictures that they see coming out, and they see Biden doesn't seem to be doing much to rein them in, and when they look into it, they get curious. They see all these crazy stories about children dying, and Israel blocking aid, and all this kind of shit. And I think that feeling that hey, we're the good guys while we're sending the missiles, while all this crazy shit is going on, and while Biden's paying lip service to them, to reining them in, but not really doing anything much beyond that. I think that and a lot of other things demoralize the fuck out of people, and I'm sure that's something that happened all over the country.
I want to be clear. Going off of what you said at the start, I don't think Gaza was the reason why they lost. Right? I think it was a contributing factor. I think there were lots of factors, but I don't think it was the reason. I think it was more indicative of lots of other problems. A party that's completely unresponsive to those people. Like the vast majority on the left were in favor of putting in some sort of limits on the weapons we were selling, right, to Israel. Vast majorities on the left were doing that, and you could find a lot of Republicans who also agreed as well. This idea, I really love what you had to say, DB, about like being the good guy, right? Of having this like self-conception of us, like people who aren't like jaded leftists, right? Who are like what Katya was mentioning before, the Blame America crowd, right? Like that's me. I'm the Blame America crowd. So like it's like I've already lost that that delusion. But like most normies, yeah, like America's great. We're the heroes, right? America, fuck yeah. And to watch as this happens, as the murder, right? Even the liberal media trying to run interference for Biden and not talk about it at all, right? What was happening? Yeah, that demoralizes people. It demoralizes people. But even beyond that, like I said, so I don't think Gaza was the end all be all. But like, just like they're unresponsive there, they've been unresponsive to the working class. They've been unresponsive in terms of like providing healthcare, right? Healthcare costs are still skyrocketing. Like the insurance ACA, right? The insurance mandate, like this. People remember that. People also remember that, like during Biden's term, they lost the child tax credit, right? That was a big thing. It was really helpful, and that was gone under him. Now, apparently, he made some movements to try to get that back, but the Republicans didn't really. The Democrats didn't really fight for it. They didn't really fight for that. There were so many things that they dropped the ball on, and people just feel like they're not being listened to. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, 95% of Democrats and Republicans don't give a fuck about you. And a lot of people, I think, are demoralized. And then when Trump comes out and says things like, they're only after me because I'm in their way, they're after you. You know, you can discount that, you know, and I totally understand why so many people would, right? But he's the only one that's willing to say that. He's the only one that seems like he's fighting for people. He might be doing it in the completely wrong way, but at the very least, he is able to craft a believable narrative that he is fighting for them, and he has radical change, you know, radical policies that will do this. Populism, right? It's anti-elitism, and the worst thing you can do when a populist uprising is occurring within a nation state as an opposition party is to fucking embrace elitism. And the Democrats have done this completely. They have embraced elitism while there is a populist uprising within the people. That's the easiest way to lose election.
Yeah, I think that's like the clearest thing that you could say. Like, there's obviously like a populist like uprising happening for a decade now. I think it's been like this trend, right?
Yeah.
And in that time, they've leaned hard the other way, which doesn't make any fucking sense.
We're the science, trust the science. We're the smart ones. We're the college educated. We're, you know, the institutions are, you know, good. I mean, it's like in every breath, every step of the way, Democrats have embraced.
I would say it was even longer than a decade. Since 2008, Obama pretended to be a populist, right? He was a fake populist. With his transformative hope and change. And people bought into that. They really believed it. That's why, again, how the Obama coalition that people thought was some sort of permanent coalition, no, it wasn't, right? They bought into this idea of a transformative change because they can see structural deficiencies within the American system, right? Now, I'll have a diagnosis for what those deficiencies are. My friends on the right here will have different diagnoses, but I think many people can agree that something is wrong and that people feel like they can't succeed and they aren't being upwardly mobile and all that, right? They feel something is wrong. And when they heard from Obama that there was going to be transformative change, they bought into that dream. And then what did he give them? Fucking nothing, right? And then
the Democrats are never going to be able to shake this or correct this until you get rid of superdelegates, right? So long as superdelegates still exist within your system, the moneyed interest will always control the Democratic Party. It will never be a party of the people.
I think it's a lot bigger than the superdelegates.
I'm just saying that's one thing. Like when
it's one thing. I agree.
Primary votes go towards whomever the corporate establishment support. You're never going to have a populist.
I mean, I agree. I want to get rid of them too. All right, so let's go to the actual main topic now. But this was a good discussion. So shout out to everyone who for
just
that.
Me out really quickly.
Okay.
Because just really quick, because I really interesting. When I was talking to my friend Edie.
I think you're echoing or something, but that's actually
me. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
now we can hear you.
Is she echoing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, good. Now you're good.
Okay, so yeah, I was talking to my friend Eden about this, right? And she was telling me that so obviously like the Israel-Gaza thing, right? Like very big topic on both sides, right? Very big issue, lots of opinions, whatever the fuck. But I think people on both sides want it to fucking end, right? And with Biden, there's been the sense that like it's just gonna fucking drag on forever, and he's gonna pay lip service, and then nothing happens, right? And that's basically been the fucking game for the last like year, right? And Bibi or Netanyahu seems to want it to keep going, right? Probably because he's worried about the corruption trial and all that kind of shit that's coming after the war's over.
He's working with Trump too. He was.
Yeah, and this person, you know, they're very like pro-Palestinian, right? And they don't like Trump, but for them, the fact that Trump had a fucking timeline, like a deadline, right? That he gave Netanyahu apparently. There's like sources that that Trump gave him to like December. Right, or I'm sorry, to the day he gets into the office, which was like January. To the day he gets into the office, to end the war, right, to end it. Like just that fucking glimmer of hope that there is an ending coming, right, was enough for them to want to vote for Trump, right? Like so, it's not like these people are asking for the Democrats to give them a lot, right? When it's like, hey, yeah, you got to boycott Israel right now. It's just like it's just some kind of movement to let them know that they're being heard. Like that's it, and it really felt like Kamala couldn't even do that.
Absolutely not. Okay, so let's move on. Before we do, hey everyone, if you've been enjoying the content so far, consider helping out the channel. We could use help. We are low on subs, so consider substitute channel gifting bits or gifting subs. Support this community if you like it. If you find yourself showing up here, on the regular, consider supporting the channel. If you are a sub, if you sub to the channel on Twitch, of course, you get ad-free viewing, and you'll get our emotes, and you'll be keeping us up around for another day, another week. Sub to the channel, gift bits or gift subs. Renew your sub if you got one. We'd love to have you around. We thank all our people who've been sticking with this community, but we do need your help. So consider subbing to the channel, gifting bits or gifting subs. On YouTube, you can hit us with a super chat. I have been keeping track. We got a super chat earlier, and I read it in a timely manner. I want you all to be proud of me. But yeah, consider supporting us so that we can do this. Also, hit the follow button. If you haven't done so yet, hit the follow button or the sub button on YouTube. Put us that way. Thank you for following Fry Karamba. Fry Karamba. Oh, like I Karamba. Fry Karamba. Okay. It took me a while. It took me a while. It was a struggle. But thank you for hitting the follow button. Okay. Let's go to the topic. Now that Trump has won re-election, many people on both sides of the aisle are terrified as to what might come next. Trump has made promises including jailing his political opponents, hobbling departments such as the FDA/EPA, and even mass deportations. This brings up the question of whether people within the administration should resist. Would it be ethical to ignore mandates or undermine policies that a bureaucrat disagrees with? Should people slow walk orders in an attempt to run out the clock on this of this administration? Or is it wrong to interfere with the agenda of a democratically elected government, especially one with such strong popular support? It seems like Trump is going to go to war with the administrative state. Whether it's there's lots of stirrings about this, and we could talk about those indications. But in any case, even if that's not his plan, let's pretend that it's not. A lot of people have moral objections to what he's going to do. I mean, he was talking about. I'm not sure if it was him, but maybe his nominee. I think it was Tom Homan or something like that. We'll get to know his name soon. The immigration czar. It's
Tom Homan.
Yeah. Thank you. Talking about, hey, why don't we we'll be deporting whole families, right? He was asked how do you keep, if you're going to do mass deportation, how do you keep families from being separated? He was like, yeah, we just deport the whole family, so it's not a problem, right? And they're talking about using military bases to hold these people as they use military planes to send them out of the country. Kind of sounds like a concentration camp, but we'll see. But people are going to have, whether you agree with them or not, they're going to have a moral reaction to this. And some of those people are going to be within the administration. Now, maybe you agree. Maybe you agree with everything that Trump is going to do, right? Maybe you're like, this is what should happen. All right. Well, then you can just pretend it's the opposite. Pretend it was an actual factual communist, not Kamala Harris, but who had gotten into office. All right. Pretended someone who, hated the America you loved. Maybe it was going to hobble the Second Amendment or whatever, right? I don't know. Pick your boogeyman. But once an administration is in power, right, and they have come in with popular support, absolutely, Trump has come in with a mandate. Once they're in power, should the people within there, should they act on their own consciousness? Does that make sense? Or is it wrong to resist in such a manner? All right, so let's go around the And let's keep it quick because we went a half hour over time on the last topic. So, Lactoid.
Yeah, so I don't value democracy inherently, but I do value the Constitution and I do value stability. And I think that stability has some certain prerequisites. And I think the first prerequisite here is that people not violate the law when it comes to hobbling certain administrations. So to the extent that any kind of hobbling is illegal, no, shouldn't do it. Now, when it comes to like non-illegal forms of hobbling, I think that, again, in the interest of stability, I think that as long as it's sort of within the realm of what is normally and traditionally accepted as, obstruction of the game plan, basically, of the alternative party, probably okay with it, right? Like, you're going to see the filibuster come into play. You're going to see, you're going to see these things happen. And I think that's fine. But what I don't want to see is something wild happen, like, I don't know, electors betraying their vote to Trump and voting for somebody else or something like that. I mean, that would just be, I think, antithetical to the Constitution and the foundation of the structure of our country. So I'm okay with obstructionism to a certain extent, as long as it's not illegal and as long as it doesn't violate longstanding traditions of what is accepted to be obstructionist.
So I just want to expand.
You said keep it brief, just to be clear.
Yeah, I know. And I was just going to ask you one thing, and then kind of keep this idea in mind when you guys are answering, right? Okay, so let's say he puts Scott Pruitt again in charge of the EPA, right? Just pulling out there, a guy who made his career out of suing the EPA. He's a Republican, right? He made a career out of suing the EPA on the behalf of corporations to stop any sort of environmental, initiatives, right? Of the Obama administration. Let's say he comes back in and he says, well, I want to get rid of the rule, that mandates this level of a chemical in the water, right? Some BPH or whatever, right? I don't know, make it up. But basically a pollutant. He says, we shouldn't be mandating this anymore. I want to get rid of this rule. And the bureaucrats slow that down, all right? Let's say he has to go through a certain number of steps, and they do everything they can to slow this down. Do you think that's okay? So answer that quickly, and then we'll go down.
Yeah, as long as it's not illegal and not outside of the ordinary for what these bureaucrats normally do to slow things down. The problem is, especially with a couple changes to jurisprudence here. I mean, these administrative agencies have lost a lot of their power, and I also think that you could see a lot of those bureaucrats, if they do start slowing shit down, they could be replaced pretty quickly. But we'll see.
Okay, Scott.
Yeah, so pull this up real quick. I like this quote from Frank Herbert because I think it the author of Dune, because I think it adequately describes kind of the left's feelings here, where you have so many people from within the state and so many people calling for this stymieing of the democracy that they always support. We love democracy. We have to vote for this person for democracy. We support democracy. Oh, the wrong person won? Well, then we will use the institution of the state as best we can to stop the mandate of the people and the mandate of democracy, because the left doesn't believe in democracy. They believe in power. When I am weaker than you, I ask for you for freedom, because that is according to your principles. When I am stronger than you, I take away your freedom, because that is according to my principles. That is how the left is engaging with this kind of tactics. It is very incumbent upon the right, I think, to stop in tracks what we are seeing within our institutions. And I think that is part of the reason why Donald Trump was elected. We already have vanguardism, within the state. We already have critical theorists and Marxists that are, you would call them neo-Marxists if you prefer, because they're, mostly cultural, that have infected the bureaucracy of the state. It is undeniable these individuals are there. And now what you are seeing is the left move on with Lenin's strategy, the exact way that he took over Russia, to the next phase, which is dual power theory, right? Read his letter, article, whatever you want to call it, April 1917, The Dual Power. And this is exactly how Lenin says that you foment the revolution or the communist revolution, is that you utilize those of the vanguard party that are within the state to slow down, make the state less efficient as we begin to build up parallel institutions. We use them to stop the will of the state, and then we attack how inefficient it is and how wrong it is and how bad it is, while we are also simultaneously slowing down the state, or for example, individuals in the intelligence community, FBI, et cetera, that are avowed leftists in their thought. If you do not pay attention to this and you continue to allow this process to continue in the way that it is, you will. I mean, these are the building blocks of a second, of a communist revolution. Is it happening more slowly? Absolutely. Are there more roadblocks than there used to be in the past, especially when monarchies existed and the state was more stagnant? Absolutely. But we should pay attention to that, because these are the exact same tactics that Lenin used to start the 1917 Russian Revolution.
Thank you so much, Corey.
Okay, I'll try to keep it actually brief. I largely agree with like 80% of what Lactoid said, so I'll echo that. If you feel something immoral and unethical is happening, do your best to resist legally and within your principles. But if you can't do that, then yeah, you just got to respect the will of the people. I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you so much, Gibbs.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're not doing anything illegal, I feel like you should be allowed to do whatever. However, that being said, I think that people need to take accountability and understand that part of the reason that Trump was elected is because people feel that the government's inefficient. And if you're holding up the process for what people voted for in general, that's going to be seen as inefficient. And that might lead to much more purging. Like, that might actually lead to a further purging, that wasn't necessary if, someone like Elon Musk is actually put in charge of Doge or something and goes in there and starts cleaning out places. It's like, oh, the ATF, totally gone, right? He comes in, he's like, oh, EPA, they're upholding, all these bureaucratic rules that stop me from getting this thing unrestricted. All right, we're going to clean all these people out. And so I think people need to realize that by resisting, they might actually make the problem worse for themselves. But I think as long as they're not doing anything illegal, they should.
Thank you. Katya.
Yeah, so I think people should kind of take kind of like a word out of the playbook of previous administrations that have done stuff like this and tried to slow walk stuff, hobble stuff, all that sort of stuff, because this has happened many a time in American history. There is a lot of precedent for, kind of trying to keep stuff stable, while it be a little bit inefficient. I mean, I think that these massive changes, I understand that these huge bureaucratic changes are like a real source of instability. So I understand why they might want to keep that to a low roar, especially if, Gibbs said that they might, resistance might be worse for you and this, that, and the other. But if where you're going, if your ultimate destination is really bad, and we hope there's a limit on the term, because, obviously we got 4-year terms, and then what? Then hopefully we have another election. I'm betting on that happening, but I know a lot of people are skeptical. But if you know that there's a deadline, you want to try to slow it down as much as possible, which I think, as long as we're working in principles of the Constitution and we're not going against what's legal, as Lactoid said, as Corey said, I'm going to say that that's perfectly fine. And sure, go ahead. Try your best. Play the game.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to our friend Ali.
There's playing the game, which I think, they're going to do, and I think that's fine. But also, I think a lot of the big major stuff that people are afraid of was just rhetoric that he was saying to get the votes. I think he's, I don't know if it's going to be mass deportations and, females, female pregnancy forever. I don't know what it is. But play the game, but let's not slow down to our government, because I need the shit to function. So basically, I agree with Lactoid, Scott, Corey, Gibbs, and Katya.
Okay, let's go to our friend Ghosty, excuse me.
So I don't know. It's kind of hard for me because I think we need to be. It's more about the specifics. So I think when it comes to like ethics, it really comes down to the specific thing. And I'm just hoping that the people that are working in the administration and in the government to either pass these orders or slow them down or whatever are just wholly doing them for, the what's best in mind for the people, which is like a very idealistic situation to hope for. But that's what I think when it comes to ethically working in the government.
Thank you. And finally, our friend Dewey.
I think I'm trying to stay positive, I guess. There are some videos Trump put out where he's like I don't want to say I don't want to be an asshole. He's not rambling. He's been pretty clear about what his plans are for these specific areas, right? The censorship thing, like the plan to save free speech or whatever. I think that one, if he sticks to the shit in that, I think it actually might be like very good, right? It's like some of I don't think all of his ideas are bad. I think it's ethical to like try to stop the ones that are bad. Probably, yeah. I guess it would just be like a case by case kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, like we have to have some. I mean, I don't know. I feel like there should be some sort of allowance for like an ethical conflict, right? Like, look, and actually, I'm gonna hold off on that. We're gonna get to that point later on. But it seems like everyone here is kind of on the assumption that whatever happens is within normal politics, right? That you might have a disagreement, but in the end, it's normal. Like, what if it's an illegal action you're being asked to do, right? Or something you're pretty sure is illegal?
So, can I get clarification on the topic?
Yeah, give a specific definition of, or like example of what you're.
Because when we read the topic, I thought we were talking about the fact that CNN was reporting that the Pentagon had a whistleblower that had spoken to them and was leaking that they were holding secret meetings on how they were going to thwart the Trump administration and try and stymie the Trump administration from implementing his agenda and plans, and how blue states and governors, or especially California, were already holding meetings on how they can do anything to stop whatever it is that Trump issues as far as executive orders or as far as within his authority. It seems like everyone is picking up on the topic, and maybe I was misunderstood the topic as like, is it okay to like sue the Trump administration and lock them up in the courts and try and keep them from going against the Constitution, or engage in lawfare and use other things to try and stop his agenda by legal means? I was under the assumption that we were talking about the Pentagon and like the security agents and people that have already committed treason, saying that they're already actively planning additional treason.
Scott, you're not wrong. What you're saying is part of this, right? Because my understanding is the overall topic is like obstructionism. And so if you have people like in these administrative agencies that are like, yeah, we're going to like try to withstand the Trump presidency. Like, my philosophy is, I think the exact example that Prime gave before is like, what if they're like, there's orders given to the ATF to like, violate the Second Amendment, or in some ways that you and I would agree would be violative of the Second Amendment. Like, yeah, I think that you should resist that, but obviously there's a limit. Like, you can't break any laws to resist it. And I also think you can't really go like above and beyond what has traditionally been like the case to resist that stuff, because ultimately, if you're part of an administrative agency, you serve at the pleasure of the president, right?
Well, you also brought up at the topic, like,
you're supposed to do.
Also the topic y'all brought up, how I noticed Trine included that it was such like a large landslide electorally and in like the popular vote, and I think there is something to be said for that too. Like, okay, say I could resist, right? Like, say like, I don't know, I'm a low level. Let's use the EPA example guy again. Well, I could go in here and I could like slow up this thing that I believe in on this like certain chemical being slowed up. I could do that. Now, the argument I think is really interesting is that does my narcissism and my belief like entitle me to be like, hey, I could sew this up legally? Does it entitle me to go and do this? Even though part and a major reason why that the like people have put Trump in office is the economy, but it's also economic excess, and like we want to buy the government that's just waste, and which part of this would be wasteful. You're going to be wasting taxpayer dollars by slowing this process up when part of what he's trying to sell is efficiency. We're going to fix the XYZ. Like, do you have this moral right to be that narcissistic and like do that? I think is also
it depends on the issue, Gibbs, because everybody can say that.
In our
right?
government.
Yeah, sure, but like, yeah, I mean, what issue? Like, okay, if it's like I'm taking your Bill of Rights away, if we're starting concentration camps, sure, I don't think anybody's gonna argue. But at like, what level does that stop? Like, where are you like not as justified?
I think it could.
If you work in the executive branch, you have done two things. One, the first thing you have done is you have put your hand, most likely on a Bible, potentially a different religious text, and you have sworn to uphold and defend the Constitution against enemies, both foreign and domestic, right? So if Donald Trump issues an order that is, explicitly violative of the Constitution, right, you are no longer in the domain where your
That's why
job
I stuck with the
requires you
EPA
to
example.
aid him. Right. But if we're talking about administrative bureaucracy grinding to a halt as people do everything they can to make the government less efficient in order to stop the mandate that is supposedly given by an individual, then I just have to ask anybody on the left that agrees with that, since when did you abandon we have to do this because of our democracy? Because you clearly don't give a fuck about democracy. Now, me personally, I fucking hate democracy. Democracy is dumb because dumb people get a say, and they shouldn't have a fucking say, right? It should be your private property and whatever it is that you want to do because I'm an ANCAP, right? But if you tell me that you believe in democracy and then you are okay with the Pentagon holding secret meetings on the best and most effective way to stop Trump's agenda and to find ways to stop the executive, I want to know what the fuck is in those goddamn meetings.
That
and
seems far.
Meetings, right? Are those meetings like, hey, are they a bunch of crazy wacko lefties that have that think Donald Trump's coming in to issue in the Third Reich and that's genuinely their belief? Well, then you should probably get rid of them because they're fucking lunatics. And A, and B, are they actually trying to stymie the executive branch in its effectiveness or commit treason again, like they did when he ordered them to pull troops out of Syria? And they admitted, and individuals admitted that they lied to Trump, kept troops in Syria, and maintained war after Trump told them to pull out because they just didn't like his plans. And of course, they end up getting money on CNN interviews instead of going to prison like they're supposed to, right? Like what the fuck is going on, and why are we acting like this is normal?
Right. So I think that there's kind of like a difference between two things that you've said that I kind of want to clarify on. So we've talked about like grinding stuff to a screeching halt in these bureaucratic areas and stuff like that, and making them non-functional or less functional, dual power theory, all this stuff. But then there's also like, obviously Trump wants to make tremendous changes, like getting rid of entire branches or of like the bureaucracy.
Yeah, the ATF gotta
He
go.
has the right to do. He has the constitutional authority to do.
Depends on which thing he's trying to do, because some things, I mean, I guess some things probably not. Which I mean,
Do you think he can not get rid? If you want to get rid of the ATF tomorrow, he should be able to do that.
Right. So, I mean, so if people want to sue and state governments want to sue in regards to this, or people in the federal government want to sue and have this work its way through the courts and decide what's constitutional and what's not. But in the meantime, everything's like acting as though it is right now. It's not reaching a halt, nothing's happening, boom. But we're just getting approval on these changes and making sure everything is kosher, above board with the Constitution, and the other. That would be a lot better.
Because if you sue, right? If you sue, and some DNC funded firm or NGO or whatever that has standing sues, they're going to get a stay of execution, right? So if Donald Trump says, hey, I want to do action A, whatever the fuck action A is, and some group that has standing petitions the court and says, hey, we're suing, until the court hears it, there's going to be a stay of execution that stops Trump from being able to do whatever action A is until the courts hear it anyways. So the concept that you would work within the bureaucracy to slow things down only matters if the courts have rejected you or Trump won his court case. It is not possible for you to work within the bureaucracy and intentionally slow down the state's ability to do so, right? Because of some constitutional issue that he doesn't have a right to do, and we need to wait on the courts, because that's just not how the United States government functions.
Right, I'm saying that
at
first and foremost, people should go to the courts if they have an issue. That's what I'm saying. But when things have a stay of execution in the
normal, yeah.
courts, when things have a stay of execution in courts, everything's working as though it is before the change. It's just we're waiting to implement the change until after it's approved, which I think would be really good, because I mean, a lot of stuff he's trying to do, it is out there. It is different than what we've been dealing with for the last however many years. So yeah, if a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know about this one, we need to run this by courts, we need to make sure this is constitutional before these changes can take place, I think that's great. I think that should happen. Now, if the courts approve it and it's something egregious, I'm sure that there are things that I'd say, yeah, slow walk this shit. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. What were the courts thinking? The Supreme Court was smoking crack that day. Not like even in a partisan way. Like if it was across the board, like what the hell? Then yeah, I mean, I support it. But like every little thing, you know, at some point, obviously, this is a democracy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Scott.
I think like a good example is like this RFK taking over the health department or whatever. Like if he has no background in public health or any experience like that. So if he goes ahead and makes like a bad decision that experts are disagreeing with and stuff, and for some reason there's some like legal loophole that allows him to do it, would it be ethical for people to kind of not allow that to happen?
Well, hold on. Wait, hold on.
He's bringing back shrooms.
The elites have decided that RFK is not qualified to be making those decisions. Oh, by the way, the Democrats are the party of the people.
Well, right.
Yeah,
but
like
there are some people who are experts in topics.
Who was the
we all
last
need to
Department
agree
of Health?
with this. Not everybody
Hold on.
knows
Who was the last
everything.
Department of Health head? Weren't they kind of controversial? I don't recall.
Can I give you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she was a doctor.
Well, exactly. That's my
This was a
point.
doctor.
Yeah, so I mean, RFK has been like, you know, in politics for, I mean, his whole life, maybe. You know, you don't think he's seen the behind the scenes, like with like the X's and the O's and how like a bureaucracy is run. I do. I think he's
Not
more
on how
than.
health
Hold on,
happens.
he's definitely more qualified. Wait, hold on. So you're saying like only a neurosurgeon or a surgeon should be the head of like the Department of Health? That's idiotic. You're gonna want someone
I
that's
think
like
somebody should at
actually
least
a
have some
bureaucrat
background in
that
health
knows how to
beyond-
run it. Yeah,
Let me steal, man.
That's his little bias.
You lost the fucking election. So if you believe in democracy, right, then shut up and go ahead and bend over and take the power of the state being used against you violently, right? I don't fucking believe in democracy. I think it's fucking stupid.
Damn.
But I have principles that are fucking consistent, right? So if you want to ever utter out of your fucking mouth that you think democracy is good, when the will of the people overwhelmingly support a ticket that has this person that is already, very rarely do presidents
Not
run and it's
overwhelmingly.
obvious who the fucking FDA head is going to be.
Landslide,
Right? Like, that's not a
overwhelming.
normal fucking
Right.
thing. People voted knowing that RFK was going to make America healthy again, whatever the fuck that means.
And that Doge was going to be
already
implemented by
moving ahead
Elon.
several
Amen,
policies,
Doge.
right? So this concept that like the experts
Awesome, Dogecoin.
disagree, we ought use a legal loophole to stop democracy is
Well,
fine if those are your principles, but don't ever fucking utter that you believe in democracy. You
No, my
believe in
principles are
power
that
so
there
long
are
as it
places
so
that-
long as it is utilized for leftist purposes. That's what
No,
you believe in.
I think that there are some things like the bureaucracy. The reason why the bureaucracy is kind of separate from elected officials like the president, like the Congress, this, that, and the other, is generally these are staffed. I mean, I don't think like when these were implemented, people like RFK were in mind. Like these were generally actual like experts in their field, you know, and people who are doing that sort of stuff, the best of the business. But
most of the founding fathers were in their fucking 20s. Stop.
sorry, did the founding fathers create the EPA and the
Yeah, they didn't have
FDA?
the idea
They
of the.
created the Constitution
did.
that gives the president the authority to get rid of them because everyone within the executive branch works under works under the privilege of the president.
They had no idea about the administrative state. We created the administrative state afterwards, something that conservatives like to tell us and say, "Oh, it's illegitimate in the first place." And in any case, like you're making the difference, the delineation between a political appointee, which RFK would be, and then the lifetime government workers under them,
Yes.
who aren't supposed to be political.
Right.
And but what I'm talking about here is if these individuals who are not political employees, who are just like regular workers, whether would it be wrong for them to essentially make a political act?
Well, they used to be
within
political
the
appointees too.
administration?
They used to be political appointees too. Used to, when the new president would come in, he'd clean out the whole administration, and they would bring in all sorts of random people to take over. So I don't know why y'all are acting like this.
I don't think that
is true.
I don't
You can look it up. Go look at Google it. I don't care.
No,
They
they
used
cleared
to
out.
bring in.
So you're saying
Every
they cleared out
single
all
person
of the
involved.
IRS,
I don't know how to
right?
feasible
They
that
cleared
is
out
anymore,
all of
guys.
the FDA.
I don't know about
they
I mean,
cleared
I'm
out
not
all-
saying it's all feasible
Yeah.
now, but they used to do this.
No,
Absolutely. They would clean in whole things.
You'd have to provide me evidence of that because that's like literally like tens of thousands of individuals. Yeah, like provide me evidence that was the case.
They would get rid of the heads of the departments, and they would get rid
The
of
heads. Yeah,
they would get
exactly.
rid of like
No, it was
they would
also-
get rid of the people under them as well. Like they would get rid of the upper management. But at the same time, like was it Washington Times, I believe again, like just a couple years ago said that they don't know how many government agencies there are because it's too much to research. Like the administrative state has bloated significantly since then.
Yeah,
Voters
like
have-
I could see them getting upper management, but like the entire like re-replacing all of the IRS, the APA, and like all the others of 3-letter departments. That seems weird. It seems impossible. Sorry, was what I meant to say.
and the 4-letter
good.
departments and
And the 4-letter ones. Excuse me. Lactoid.
Yeah. So the first thing is now that Chevron's gone, the administrative state's much less powerful, which is pretty base. So I wouldn't worry all too much. But to sort of steelman the other side here, as I understood the steelman to be, is let's imagine a scenario in which us here on the base right would maybe like be a little bit uncomfortable with like with non-obstructionism. So let's say that Kamala Harris won and she implemented her gun buyback program that she suggested back in 2019. Okay, she directed the ATF to go take everybody's guns, and the ATF is like, oh, okay, fine, we'll do it. But some of the agents themselves were sort of dragging their feet a little bit when it came to raiding people's houses to illegally confiscate, in my opinion, their guns. Now, they may actually have some legal basis to do so, potentially, but the agents dragging their feet, if they're not breaking any laws, and they have discretion to extent to drag their feet, but they're not like really going above and beyond that discretion. Do I think they're doing something wrong? I don't think they're doing anything like that they should be. I don't think they're doing anything like wrong per se. Obviously, it's issue dependent for me, but on principle, I don't think they're doing anything wrong. But I do also think that the big issue here is they should just be able to be fired, right? Ultimately, that should be the weapon of the executive saying, look, I'm not going to make you do this job, but if you're not going to do the job, I'm going to replace you with somebody who will. And if you can't find anybody who will, well, that's kind of your problem, right? That's an issue with the way you're running your administration. But a lot of these federal employees have all these protections that make it pretty difficult for them to be fired. I think that's really the main problem, right? So in terms of people being obstructionist, again, as long as it's not illegal and as long as it's not like beyond what traditionally we accept, then I don't personally have a problem with it. But I think one of the concerns I do have is, let's say you do have these workers, for example, having these secret cabal meetings and plotting how to slow down the president. There's no reason why the president shouldn't be able to put somebody in charge. They'll just fire them right away and say, look, I mean, if you're all going to plot against my agenda, you're gone. That's reasonable to me. And if we're talking about removing those protections to make that happen, I'm fine with that. But I mean, to answer the steelman, Scott, I mean, what would your thoughts be on those particular ATF agents that very drag their feet?
I would say that you haven't compared like variables, right? Because in your example, you were talking about something that is explicitly unconstitutional and a violation of the NAP, right? Whereas what I am speaking about is individuals in DC that are 80% voting Democrat plus, right? That are overwhelmingly left leaning, that have fears of Donald Trump administration, but also have a willful desire to stop his agenda with their job, right? Just because it's his right-wing agenda, not because it is violating individual liberty, violating people's rights, or violating the Constitution, right? So it would, if that is the issue that I take part with. I take issue with the concept that we have left-wing people that have adopted, leftist ideology, that have infiltrated the state and now desire and are stating it in some cases, not individuals explicitly, but they're whistleblowers at CNN, et cetera, that these people are having meetings to prepare on how to slow down the supposed democracy that they believe in.
That's ridiculous. I agree that part's ridiculous. But again, like I guess the steel man would be on the base level principle.
Is constitutional.
Well, okay, right. But let's just. But I mean, to be fair, the assault rifle ban of 1996 was for some reason found to be constitutional, right? So, I mean, let's assume that comes into place again. Let's say Kamala won, and she put that back into place. And like the ATF agents were being sort of slow in enforcing their rules, right? Their administrative codes. Like they weren't like not doing it, but they were not doing it very proactively. And I agree, like they should be able to be fired, but are they doing something wrong by not being super proactive?
Yes.
You think so?
If I think, right. I think that if you are in a position in the executive branch and someone is you believe, so I'm doing an internal critique here. Sorry, let me apologize. I'm doing an internal critique from the individuals that say that they believe in democracy. From my standpoint, I think it's ineffective, right? And therefore probably morally wrong because of its ineffectuality. But like ultimately, like I don't have any problem with individuals working in the state to sabotage the state. I'm a fucking anarchist, right? But I do have a big problem with individuals of the leftist variety who want the state to function well when the left is in power and want to utilize that power to grow the state. And then when a conservative or Republican or a populist that doesn't agree with them comes in, they want to intentionally destroy that presidency and their agenda in whatever ways that they can. And I'm saying from an internal critique perspective, you don't believe in democracy.
That's a fair.
You don't believe in the will of the
Right.
people. What you believe in is power and pushing socialism.
Well,
and I
right.
fucking hate you.
No, one last thing. I think your position is very respectable. I agree with it, like 99%, especially as to the double standard that they're sort of enforcing. What I'm trying to do right now is avoid the perception of double standard from us, is what I'm trying to do, right? I don't want people to say, oh, well, Lactoid, you said it's always wrong when they drag their feet when it comes to enforcing like the will of the executive, maybe like 10 years down the line when like Giga Stalin 5000 wins the election
I'm very,
and starts taking away everybody's guns, right?
Here's my very consistent approach. I think it's a bad idea and ineffective, but if you're going to do it, there's nothing morally wrong with doing it when you are doing it to stop unconstitutional actions or things that violate the non-aggression principle.
Okay.
It's fair. So, it's a fair position. Yeah.
I'm going to say that, and then I'm going to go to Katya. I also want to hear from Doobie. He's been too quiet. He's probably plotting against me. That's what happens when he's quiet. It might be because I don't have a proper historical view, right? Maybe we should have had Aiko here for that, right? But as far as I can remember, and as far as what I've read, what I've seen, we haven't had this talk within the administration about sabotaging a president. I like this for any previous Republican administration, maybe Nixon, I don't know, right? But I believe this is new. And maybe other people can help elucidate. Maybe I'm missing something here. But Trump seems to be an exception. Let's not forget that and I put people on both sides because I actually meant that. Like for instance, Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State. There was that story about him and his defense secretary at the time. I forget which one it was. He's going through. He had a whole slew of secretaries. But there's that story of them saying if he goes for the nuclear football, like we might actually have to wrestle him like to the ground, right? There are stories of like Trump, because Trump's a drilling moron. Let's never forget that he's an absolute idiot. Trump making demands right within the White House, and people are going like, "Well, this is kind of stupid," and then just like not doing what he
A
says.
source close to the president says.
And not doing what he says, and then him never checking up on it because he doesn't actually have a policy agenda. He's just like, oh, I thought this would be cool, and then pushing that forward, like 10xing the nuclear arsenal, right? Like ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous thing to say. So good thing that was ignored. My
Pardon me.
yeah, no problem. So where was I going with that? Hold on. I actually
it seems to be new, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah, yes,
seems
yeah,
to be a
yeah,
thing that's
thank you.
kind of like special to Trump. which
Yes, exactly.
I don't think so. I don't actually think it is. I don't think it's new. I think people within the bureaucratic state have been, have had personal feelings about the job that they do. I mean, how does anyone really divorce themselves from political actions when they themselves are a citizen? I think what's new is that there is a certain segment within the population that is so fervently against Trump that people are willing to have meetings in the state with each other about it. And people are willing to leak to the media because Trump's such a danger. I think that's what's new. Not that, the state is inefficient. I mean, like, let's be honest.
Yeah, hold on. But the other thing I want to say, and I haven't forgotten you, Katja. The other thing that I want to say is that, like, yes, this one it does seem to be at least with like the openness, the brazenness of this. I don't remember. I haven't seen it with other Republican administrations. Again, maybe I just don't have the historical view on this. But what I have seen on the other side is the Tea Party. Right, I've seen on the right groups, the Freedom Caucus, right, who has done everything it can to obstruct the government, right? Like now they did it from legislative stance, being within the Congress, but there is within conservative thought, like what's his name, the tax guy, the guy who made people sign the tax pledge, right? He made presidents sign that. Grover Cleveland, not Cleveland. Grover Norquist. Right? Like there is an ideology that you shrink the government down until you can like drown it in a bathtub, making the government more and more inept, making it unable to answer the will of people. Because you had read that quote earlier, right? Like when I was hearing that, like, oh, that describes the right. That's conservatives. Conservatives have been doing exactly that for decades. Actually, that's been their game plan.
Can you give me an example where they have done that? Just one in all of, and like since I've been alive, right? In the last 35 years.
So exactly, the freedom
where they intentionally tried to make the government less effective.
Sure, yeah, I'll do it right now. Again, the Freedom Caucus, but specifically what I'm thinking of is like I believe he was part of the Freedom Caucus, and I don't remember his name now. Fuck. But there was this senator who specifically got away of any funding packages for anything. He even stopped the 9/11 funds. Remember, there were like funds for the firefighters because of all the diseases they were suffering, right? This guy got away. I believe it was from Kentucky. I want to say Kentucky. Maybe someone in the chat might tell me who I'm thinking of now. I remember. I remember his face, but I'm sorry. I can't remember his name. And to be fair, he was at least principled about it.
You're talking about
Rand Paul. Not Rand Paul.
Kentucky?
Not Rand Paul. And he's not there now. He's not currently in office.
Oh, okay.
But he also.
I really think you're referring to Rand Paul. Just to be clear,
I'm definitely not referring to Rand Paul. I know who I'm thinking of. But it's definitely not Rand Paul. Also, there was he would stop disaster relief funds as well, right? So we like make up special packages. A place gets hit by a hurricane or whatever, right, to help with the rebuilding process. When his state, whether it was Kentucky or not, it was one of those middle states, I believe, maybe Arkansas, I don't know. When his state was hit with a natural disaster, he said specifically, no, actually not. For my state, I vote against it. I voted against it. The point is, he was stopping government from actually being efficient, actually doing the job of the government. He would say he was being.
Can you give an example of, because this isn't an example of conservatives or the right trying to make the government less effective. This is an example of, like when the Tea Party was formed, we were in unimaginable debt that we were very worried we'd never be able to pay back. That was $7 trillion. Now we're $36 trillion.
Yeah, way more than that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like this is stopping. Whenever you spend money, right, that is a form of taxation and spending, right? Like a form of taxation, either through inflation or through your tax. So that's not an example of trying to make the government less efficient. That is an example of trying to stop spending, which is part of inflation and the degrowth of the economy. Now, you can disagree. You can say that it is morally just to utilize taxation for disaster relief. I think most people would probably agree with you. Most people aren't ANCAPs, right? But I'm asking you for an example where anyone in the last 35 years that has had an R next to their name, or Freedom Caucus, Tea Party too, where they have intentionally gone through actions, either legislative or in the bureaucracy and openly, right, to make the government less efficient so that it can't do its job, not cut spending and funding, which under their ideology, and I think many people's ideology, would be the cause of government inefficiency.
Hold on. If the government literally can't respond to the problems because it can't get funding, right?
It's not an issue of efficiency. That's an issue of spending.
Okay, sorry. Well, then you just look at it differently than I do. But I can give you other examples, but that's the main.
No. I think you look at it this way, Prime.
Hold on. I'm talking about it from a one-to-one of what we're discussing now, right? Like where there are individuals, executive branch, that are presumably, we don't actually know that it's true, but CNN was reporting that they are having meetings, not on cutting funding or stopping a bill in the legislative process, but instead on how they can make the state less efficient at doing the task that it was assigned to do and stop that from occurring because they do not agree with the will or authority of the President of the United States. That is their specific job. I'm not saying you can't find examples. I'm just saying I don't think there's going to be many. I'm sure there are some.
Do we know the specifics of the meeting? Do we know the specifics of the meeting, what they meant? Because I feel like that would really change the severity.
Well, I thought that was the topic. I thought that's what
I can give one example.
Exactly what they said in the meeting.
I can give one example, but it's not with the Fed.
We don't have that recording, right?
So,
we just have what the whistleblower
right,
said.
that's what I'm saying. So I'm not sure how extreme it was.
I think the best example I can think of,
course,
and it's not the Feds, but a lot of states, my state included, there was pandemic-related enforced rules basically put down by the state government, and sometimes local sheriff's departments would just refuse to enforce them. They would not enforce them.
Yeah.
I think that would be an example of a government on the local
or in Texas or in Texas if you want to go down to the
borders
state level, in Texas where with the borders, yes,
that's
but also,
another example actually.
Piggybacking off of COVID though, right, where Texas attempted to pass a law that would ban companies from not hiring or firing people based off of their vaccination status, right? Because they were trying to inoculate against what they thought would be vaccine mandates from the state, right? But again, I think all of those would be unconstitutional, right? Not intentionally having an open southern border goes directly against one of the few purviews that you are intended to protect as the President of the United States, right? As well as, COVID restrictions that they thought were coming down. From a natural rights perspective, I'm against what Texas did because I think companies ought to be able to fire you for not having a vaccine. And I think I ought to be able to discriminate against said companies and say, go fuck yourself. I'm not buying your product. But, that's what freedom looks like.
We would agree companies should be able to fire you for getting the vaccine, too.
Amen.
Yes, absolutely.
Hey,
Sure,
do you have something else to say? Gotcha. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if Mitch McConnell would count under this except because then we went to state stuff, so I figured I don't know if Senate would count because him blocking the Supreme Court pick for Obama, like literally no matter what, and him trying to block literally everything he can, even going against norms, going against what everybody else has done in any recent times. He just was like, "Nah, I'm gonna stand here, brick wall, And
Well,
I mean,
that's the
since then we
Senate.
haven't seen that.
I mean, that's checks and balances, right? Like that's the purview of the Senate is to be a check against the president. It's not the purview of the bureaucracy that serve under the authority of the president to secretly try and stymie his agenda. Right? Like
Sorry,
that
I
goes
was
against
confused
the
because you
presumed
brought up
democracy.
states too. You brought up states, and then you brought up local law enforcement, and then
didn't,
state
but-
laws.
So what the point that's being made here is that, like, yes, senators, like, if you're in a different branch of government, it's probably okay for you to be sparring with a different branch of government and, like, being somewhat obstructionist and, like, within reason, right? That's fine, right?
I think that was out of line. He wouldn't confirm anyone.
Right, but that's your job, right? And I will agree with you that there was a little bit too much. I think, even though it wasn't illegal, there was a little bit too much obstructionism there. Probably went beyond the norms and traditions of the country, for sure.
Yeah.
But
I think you might a little bit.
Yeah, there's an argument there.
You actually probably are right.
Probably, but what we're saying is that if you're in the same branch, like, you need to be
executive.
Yeah. If you're within in the executive branch, your duty is to be, like, unquestionably, like, you are a tool for the president. Essentially, you do what the president says. If you're all, like, under the judicial branch, right? If you're a lower court judge,
Unless it violates the Constitution.
You are listening, right? But that's the Supreme Court's job to tell you whether or not it is or isn't. And if you're a lower court judge, you follow what the Supreme Court says. That is not up to you, right? If the Supreme Court says something and you're a lower court judge, you follow that, right? And so all of the three branches are built in a hierarchy where at the top, it's the top, and you can't betray them. You can't be disloyal to them. You can't go against them. And it's up to the top of the three branches to keep each other in check. That's the idea.
Sure. Yeah. I guess unless it's an unlawful order, I definitely see where you're coming from. But then it's hard because I understand the other side as far as, like, basically, if we imagine, like, the U.S. with rules and norms and stuff, we're on a boat, okay? It tilts to the side, right? And I understand why people would be concerned, especially in these branches, that what Donald Trump wants to do is this, and, like, not wanting to completely throw people out of whack and throw the government out of whack to a degree where it's just going to swing back, like, entirely, like everything changes.
Hold on. Let's use your boat analogy.
You openly admitted in the last panel topic that he was brash and that he had these crazy sweeping things. Like, that's what he was elected for.
Let's just use our own boat analogy.
Democracy, or at the very least, our constitutional republic. Then you have to be for him putting forward his agenda and for the executive branch and acting that agenda.
Well, I said too that they liked his rhetoric. I don't think people understand the implications of
I think
what
they
exactly
do.
these things are going to do.
This is that elitism again. This is the better boat analogy. Would be, instead of, like, two people on each side and they're going, like, oh, there are a bunch of people on each side and it's flipping one way or the other. It's that the boat is flooding. And one side is going, hey, you know what? We're going to fix this and we're going to do whatever. The other side's going, let's talk about gender studies. And we go, hey, we want to come in here and cut out all the problems, and we want to get the water out. Get all the water out of the boat. And so instead of getting the water out of the boat, y'all are going, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to poke some extra holes in here to slow them down because we don't want these guys proven right. That's the argument y'all are making, because it was such a resounding victory. It's like this. I'm not arguing that they don't have a right to do this as long as they don't break any laws, or somebody doesn't have the right to, like, not carry out an order they don't want to and then suffer the consequences, get fired. It's that they're not. I feel like people's narcissism and they're just, like, self-identity, like, oh, I know better than all these other millions of people. I'm so much smarter than them. Yet ignoring the wisdom of the crowds because they just
it's
millions.
Extremely complicated.
This is an extreme landslide.
How many people
This is an extreme. This is maybe the biggest landslide we've had in the last, like, I don't know, at least my lifetime. And we're sitting here going,
bigger than Obama?
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, after a president is elected,
More
After
votes than
president
Obama.
is elected, people aren't like it's kind of up
Everybody
to
got
him.
less votes.
Exactly. It's neither here nor there, Fabian. The point is biggest in our lifetime. That's the point, though. Is they're sitting here, they go, it's an extreme
As you
amount,
say it,
and
that's
we
window
want
dressing,
people want
as you
extreme
call it.
change, and y'all are like, no, we have the right to stop this for everybody because reasons. We're smarter than you. I think.
Well,
It's
no,
like
here's the
oh,
thing.
you don't understand tariffs. Like clearly, you didn't understand
Well,
economy.
they
Like not you in general, because
tariffs.
we understand tariffs. We also understand cumulative inflation, which apparently the Dems didn't. So like,
No,
I'm sorry, I'm not going to
does
take the
China
economic
pay
line.
the inflation? How does China pay the inflation? Like, how does that work?
How does
Like,
China pay the
how does,
inflation?
not inflation, tariff.
This is like I'm not even sitting here
Tariff.
yelling tariffs from the
The
top.
Chinese
I said the
government
wrong
sends
word.
us a check.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Big giant check.
You know what? If Trump was able to make
They
them
just
do
cash
that,
app it.
I'd be like, oh wow, he's cooking a little bit. But we all know that's not gonna happen.
Look. Let's not talk about tariffs because I guarantee you don't understand them either. Like, I'm sorry, but like anytime I've ever met anybody in Twitch politics, even fucking Econo Boy, who is, has a master's degree in economics, has been working this whole time, he doesn't fucking understand tariffs, right? China pays, we pay, we all pay. All right, there you go. That's what.
Well, yeah,
tariffs
because
are.
then
We
you
all
get
fucking
trade
pay.
wars. Yeah.
Well, we're kind of already in trade wars, right? But Trump wasn't calling for trade war to use them to negotiate, which you would be a variable. He's just saying they're great.
I mean, Econoboy is a great example.
Can you
of this.
quickly define what a tariff is, though?
So, but hold on. Econoboy is a great example. Like he said, he told me that the economy wasn't going to be the reason. He straight up told me this on multiple panels. He told me the inflation wasn't going to be the
Before
thing.
the election. Before the election. Not after the election.
Not after the election. But he sat here and told me until he was blue in the face. The inflation rate didn't matter. The economy's booming. Like all these things. And nobody on the right agreed with him, right? And guess what? It looks like we were right. And then we say, okay, we don't want what y'all are saying. We want drastic change, and that's what the American populace voted in. Y'all are like, we have the right to go and tell all these people. It is. You know what? Fabian's right again. They really don't want democracy. They sit here saying democracy only works when it works for us. Otherwise, we're gonna take our toys and go home. We're gonna poke holes in the boat like that. Like we're gonna sink it and then say it was so bad. Look, it was bad. It's because it didn't work out. Well, why didn't it work out? Well, it doesn't have anything to do with y'all trying to stop us at every turn.
I started this with that Frank.
Yeah, it's exactly. You're exactly right. Like I mean, it's clear now.
When I'm weak and when I.
Also, one more thing you were right about was the Amish thing. I was incredulous in that when you posted that on Twitter, but I wanted to also say you were right about the Amish thing. I was pleasantly surprised and happy about that.
I was. Fair enough. I appreciate that. That was one thing I was right on. The Amish fucking
True experts
had a
of
big turnout
bureaucracy.
in Pennsylvania.
So I would like.
I'm only an expert
so,
in bureaucracy
hold on.
because of my sheer hatred.
Doobie.
I know.
do you
I was
have
joking about
anything-
the Amish being
Okay.
experts of bureaucracy.
Okay. Doobie, I want to see if you have anything to add. Then we'll go to our friend Ali.
I have nothing to add on the stuff they've been talking about, to be honest. I think how do I put this? I think Gibbs is right. Okay, sort of. Unfortunately, so I think that even if because I actually don't think Trump is going to do anything really crazy, right? Or that I would consider to be wildly immoral or a terrible or I don't think he's gonna be a fascist. I think a lot of the people who are saying he's gonna be a dictator, and he's gonna be the last election. I think all that's gonna go into the memory hole, and we're gonna forget people were saying that crazy shit in a few months, right? But I think that
saying it. Trust.
Yeah. But I think
They won't
that
let us forget. TikTok exists, brother.
I think that Katya's position is toxic, actually. At least the way you're speaking about it right now. I mean, maybe you wouldn't say this the average person. Because, you guys don't understand this. Oh, well, you actually don't know. It's too complicated, yada, yada.
I wouldn't say that to regular people in electorate, but I was saying that every single person doesn't know the facts of exactly how bureaucracy works and how the economy works, which I mean, it's the objective truth. I don't know it either. I doubt everybody here could explain literally everything.
Yeah. So, but I think it would be easy for So if this is like the thing, right? Like
If anybody
Democrats,
did, central planning and socialism would work. I'm glad that you agree that market socialism is not possible because nobody knows everything, and you actually need the price.
Well,
and
I don't. Yeah, I don't.
All right,
believe in
hey,
central
this is
planning
Jimmy's
or
time.
So this is the
Please.
thing, right?
I don't
So
believe in
if
planned
the, if the
economy.
next like stage of this like drama is a bunch of bureaucrats or elected officials or people in like political positions, like we find that there are like a ton of them trying to slow the process, right? Trying to fuck things up, trying to bog down the works, right? I feel like that would be a fucking massive gift to the Republicans and to Trump, but to the Republican Party, really. Because what they're going to say is, hey, look, you guys had this massive landslide victory. The Trump came in with a mandate, and the Democrats, they care so little about your opinions, about what you want. They fucked it all up, right? They're going to blame every screw up on the Democrats and on these bureaucrats slowing shit down. And the next time that comes around, that'll be the talking point, right? That the Democrats don't give a fuck about you or the mandate that you gave Trump. What they care about is they'd rather fuck up the country than give you what you asked for. Like that's going to.
I don't really believe that because it doesn't work the other way. Like for example, I mean, when Republicans have like done not bureaucratic obstruction, but opposed a lot of things that would have alleviated situations or helped some people with stuff. Like during Biden's presidency, during Obama's presidency, this, that, and the other. People blame who's president at the time for bad stuff that happens for the most part. So I don't know. Like, I mean, if they blame Biden for things that were caused by Republicans, but if bad things happen under Trump, they're all of a sudden gonna like start being rational and blame Democrats for like actions that took place in the back seat. I don't know if that'll work like that.
True. I think you're Actually, yeah, give an example of that because my perspective
example of well, I meant God, yeah, but that's fine.
Sorry, go ahead. Example of what?
Well, you the claim that like Republicans did something to stymie the the Democrats ability to govern in some way even from a legislative position.
Trump killed the bipartisan border bill.
The bipartisan border bill that gave $80 million.
Don't even start with the border bill thing. It was not a bipartisan bill.
They amended it that didn't have any Ukraine or Israel. They amended after that.
Year that had, yeah, sure. After, yeah, yes, you're correct. It amended, and that there was still more money in foreign. It was
killed the 2016 bill by Trump.
The amount of money in foreign aid than there was for the actual border. That it was a process.
There wasn't foreign aid in the
asylum
last one.
To give temporary and a pathway to citizenship and permanent residence to everyone. Oh, and by the way, allowed up to 2 million immigrants coming across the southern border per year. So that'd be 8 million. That'd be about 0.5% of the entire.
But it's rich because they also killed the bill.
It was to add more.
You killed the 2018 bill too. Sorry, you don't get to sit on this high horse and talk about the bipartisan
afterwards.
Yeah,
got rid of
and they killed it, which it also even had more. It even had more than what they wanted.
Okay, wait, hold on. So can I address your claim, Scott? I'm so sorry.
Blame the Democrats.
Whoa.
People rightly blame the Democrats.
No, because the Republicans supported it until Donald Trump said to kill the bill.
No,
he said
Donald Trump
leave it open
supported because his constituents didn't want a part of it.
Orders when they campaigned, and then they got rid of all of his executive orders, and then they didn't have a quote.
Who, Republicans? Because they were in support of this until that doesn't matter.
Bill as a means to say that they achieved something.
Republicans killed the bill to leave it open for the election.
No, that's not true. We killed it because it wasn't good enough.
It was literally was stated.
So hold on. So why didn't you pick the 2018 bill?
What was he doing the first 3.5 years?
Yeah, why didn't you pick the 2018 bill if you actually
Okay, whoa, pull back. We got it so she can actually answer. Okay, so what do you want to ask our friend Katya, and then Katya just answer that.
What were they doing for the first 3.5 years before this bill? This is question one. What were they doing for the first 3.5 years before this bill, other than getting rid of executive orders that Donald Trump put in place?
And the 2018 bill.
That's irrelevant. You're in a different world from the original question.
We're not. We were in a crisis then too. That's what's crazy.
So the original question was.
You don't get
I'm not going to answer a question that's over there when I'm answering the question that was over here. Because I said, what was the thing that was? You asked, what was the thing that was blocked by Republicans that they then blamed Biden for the situation or Democrats for the situation. I named that. Now you're saying, what were they doing
Well,
for
the
3.5
Schumer
years?
blocked the 2018
Doesn't
bill.
matter.
What's the excuse
That
there?
doesn't have anything to do
Pause.
with that.
Pause. Let me explain why it does. Here's why it does. Because your original claim is that it is the same in the inverse. And the inverse would be that the Democrats have a genuine desire to push an agenda. And they put forward bills, and then the Republicans stop those bills from being able to take place. And then the electorate blames the Democrats because they're in power instead of the Republicans that stopped the agenda. And my
Yeah, that's what
argument
happened.
is for 3.5 years is how long they sat on this issue, and that they intentionally rescinded executive orders from the very beginning of their
Making it
administration
worse.
that opened the southern border, that they ran on open borders in the primaries.
That
specifically
didn't
Kamala
It did
Harris.
happen.
It absolutely did happen.
They
And then
said
all of a
open
sudden they put a
borders,
bill-
or did they say
I'm gonna
pathway to
finish.
citizenship?
I'm
Which
gonna
one was
fucking
it?
finish. I'm gonna
destroyed
fucking finish.
walls
let
here.
him-
They put
let him
forward a
finish.
bill right at the end that was killed, and the reason that bill was killed right at the end by Republicans, you're saying it's just Trump in the election, but
No.
there are a lot of other
It
fucking
is.
problems with that bill. and
We
it is
went to
not a
Trump and
good
said we
bill
didn't want
that
this
is-
bill.
that agrees with the immigration of the
Like, that's what's
conservative
crazy
agenda.
is the
It was
Trump
written
cons-
by a Republican.
Hold on, yeah, but with some
Yes, it
Republicans. Hold on, some Republicans. First of all, you're also like omitting that y'all killed the 2018
Chuck
bill.
Schumer
Had
said
more.
this
Oh,
as
y'all
well as
killed it. Y'all
the
killed-
Senate
hold on. Y'all
Republicans.
killed the 2018
I believe
bill.
it was Mitch
Chuck
McConnell.
Schumer's a Democrat. Why would we listen to him?
And
There was
Mitch
larger.
Mitch
Hold on, there was a large. Hold on.
McConnell.
This was dishonest.
Who is he?
This is why you're so elitist. Once again, a large segment of Republicans said this bill's not good enough. We don't want it. The 2018 bill was better. We don't want this
Who is
bill.
Mitch McConnell?
Hold on. Let me finish. We let you spiel your whole bullshit. So we said we didn't want it. Trump, the same one in 2018, when he tried to take the Dreamers to those constituents revolted then, said we couldn't put the Dreamer bill in there, even though he gave Dems everything they wanted. Then the Dems shut that bill down. We come to this one, they don't even include the Dreamers, so that was clearly lip service. This is after everything Scott said, where they went and just rescinded executive orders, destroyed the border other ways, literally physically tearing down barriers, and then you want to go, oh, it was Trump? No, that's your elitist dismissiveness. That's bullshit, because the
I
constituents
said that's
that
why
lived-
this
hold on,
bill
the-
failed.
hold on.
This.
The people here in the Republican side were not just Trump. It was everybody down here that actually deals with this issue said this bill's not good enough, and then you're going to just dismiss all of us out of hand.
They didn't
say
say
we
it
don't
till
have
Trump
problems.
said so. They
We
just
said it
magically
before that.
decided
We
that.
said it before that. It just magically. This is
Why were they supporting it? Were they on crack that day?
We were not supporting it.
Okay, so we're gonna move on. Right, I want to let Doobie finish up what a point he was gonna make, and then we're gonna go to Ali. But before then, just
Sorry,
quickly,
it was Lindsey Graham,
Just
I think, and Mitch McConnell.
quickly.
Mitch McConnell
I
has
forgot.
a state border state. I didn't know that.
Stop
That's
it.
news to me.
So I was combining two senators previously. What's his face? The guy you said before, with the R, Rand Paul. He was the one who was obstructionist on that committee with the firefighters. So that's my mistake. I was combining him with someone else. But there was a senator that I was thinking of, and I finally found him. I had to literally go through the entire list of the 2010 Congress.
I'm sorry
I found
I did
him.
that to you.
Yeah, it's fine. But the guy who I was thinking of was Senator
Let me
Tom
guess,
Coburn.
John Kinney from Louisiana. Oh, fuck.
No, Senator Tom Coburn from I believe it was Oklahoma. And in May 2013, after tornadoes ripped through his state, Coburn said that any new funding allocated for disaster relief needed to be offset by cuts to other federal spending. So he had been blocking. Yeah. So Tom Coburn was famously obstructionist. In fact, that's how his
so with his
that's
statement, you prove that it wasn't about spending and not about stopping and grinding and making.
Okay, hold on. I'll deal with that.
Waste and abuse.
I will deal with that one.
Unless you make. The
I will deal with that one later. I will. Oh boy. I will.
Right,
no. The opposite. But hold on. But I'll have to deal with that later. But anyway, it literally starts his Wikipedia article. Coburn was an obstruction. I mean, no, never mind. I'm not going to say that. Never mind. But in any case, the point is that don't look at it. But in any case, Tom Coburn was the person I was thinking of.
Right,
let's go to. Don't. No, I'm not going to say it. Let's go to our friend Doobie so we can finish up, and then we'll go to Ali.
I mean, that was it. That was all I had. I think that actually, So if I were like a Democratic like strategist person, right? Um, well, actually, what do you guys say? I think that their best move, right, actually might be to let Trump do whatever the fuck he wants for the most part, other than like crazy unconstitutional shit, for the next like 4 years, to demonstrate how bad it actually is, right? Like this is branded populism. It actually is for the country, right? If it is.
Sure.
And then they can come in 4 years and save the day or whatever the fuck, right? That actually might be their best move politically, I think. If they
They
actually
just need to
believe,
hammer tariffs and go to unions. Just go
Yeah.
to unions and go back to the to workers unions and try and win back the white working class vote by, instead of attacking white men for being white men constantly, shut the fuck up about that a little bit. Have a moment, have a couple of people denounce racists and critical race theorists on the far left that have like very little fucking part of the electorate, even though they're loud as fuck. Tell them to shut the fuck up and just focus on tariffs and why tariffs are bad, and focus on getting a fuck ton of funding from like Teamsters and unions and getting the unions back, because the unions wouldn't even endorse her because she didn't give a fuck about any sensible economic policy that meant anything to them.
Yeah, I think that
Okay.
that's
sorry,
like the number one.
We got
thing,
you got to move on. Ali.
I was just gonna say, so that boat shift that you were talking about, Katya, where people were worried that Trump is just gonna take the shift and, take the boat sideways. In a way, I think it needs to happen, because what happens is no one trusts the way the boat was shifting to the left, and so you let it shift to the right as much as like Trump wants to do. And like Doobie said, like I said, I don't think he's gonna do anything that necessarily crazy, nor that he has the ability to do something crazy. So it's like you get two things: either he fucks up and he fucks up, and now you get to come in and save the day, or he does some good shit and the left now takes the fucking L, has some humble pie, and kind of learns how to like retalk to their base and maybe, focus in on what the country actually wants, because that's what Trump did.
What if it works? What if
I agree
it
with
works?
you. No, listen, I agree with you here.
It doesn't.
With my boat analogy, I was saying if we are capsizing the boat.
One second. I just gotta get this out really quickly. A super chat from GSU Gambit says only elitists and authoritarians would install a candidate as the primary winner, the primary election winner. I'm happy they lost, but also sad we have Trump. LOL. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Much appreciated, USU Gambit, for being so kind and supporting us. Guys, support the channel, sub to the channel, give bits or give subs. We do need your help. So if you're out there and you appreciate what we're doing here, consider helping out. If you got Amazon Prime, just Prime Gaming, use that here on the channel. One free sub. We definitely need your assistance. If you're out there haven't supported yet, consider supporting the channel now. All right, so you can respond, Katya.
Right, yeah. So with my boat analogy, yeah, I think, if it's just been like gentle waves or whatever, and he wants to, have it like turn up the heat a bit, sure, absolutely. Yeah, the time, as I was saying, that I'd like, okay, if they need to obstruct, would be stuff that would be like the end of the country.
Oh,
like if it was that extreme. If it's not the end of the country, the end of the democracy, then, okay, yeah, it's his time to shine. That's, I guess, just my main concern, that everything would be, thrown into complete chaos and turmoil, because we are a very large
That'd be
nation.
funny. That'd be funny if conservatives voted themselves into a monarchy.
But we have to be specific, right? Because when you say the end of the country, right, that is a subjective interpretation. That's not the same thing as saying violating the Constitution, or under an objective framework like violating the non-aggression principle.
I mean, if the
But when you
Constitution's
say
like
the
no
end-
more, or
that's fine. But when you say the end of
principles.
the country, all I can think of is like the V coming next day and saying any fucking policy is the end of the country, right? Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
if
guess.
we're talking about violating the Constitution, I don't think you have any real disagreement with Lactoid and I on this perspective, right? Like if the
Not
only
really.
thing they're attempting to stop as stymie is blatant
Violating the
violation of the Constitution, then I don't think any of us have any issue with that. Does anybody here have an issue with the Constitution being blatantly violated by something that Donald Trump does, and the executive branch being like, well, I'm going to drag my fucking feet on this one?
Well, I mean, couldn't you, no matter what, always just defer to that, as in doesn't everybody have an out in the executive branch saying, well, I thought it was unconstitutional, so I didn't do it? and then that has to go through the legal process.
Well, if you're
right?
wrong, you get fired, right?
Yeah, but like but in a way that would also be a form of obstructionism, right? Or just like months later, they know whatever the Supreme Court ruling will come down. Like
Right. Yeah.
It is unfortunate
My
that
fear
people
is
aren't honest or true
the
about their
court situation.
or
Well,
principled or philosophically knowledgeable or even knowledgeable of the Constitution.
I think Corey brings up a good point, which is that ultimately, you can always say, well, I thought,
Ultimately, government sucks. Yes.
No. Ultimately, this is always unconstitutional, right? Like, why did you drag your feet? Oh, I thought it was unconstitutional. I understand that. I think this is a part of the problem with the living constitution theorists that have been put on the court, and this concept of we don't really know what the law is until the court makes it up. Essentially, I think that's a major issue. So, I think the only solution here is just to say, look, I mean, it's got to be a reasonable reading of the Constitution based on what it is, and if you are wrong, then I mean, sucks to be you. I don't know what else to say.
So we've blown past time, so I want to respect everyone's schedules here. So thanks so much, everyone, for coming through. And if you haven't supported, consider supporting the channel. Again, we do need your help. We have don't have many subs right now, so consider subbing to the channel, gifting bits or gifting subs, and keeping this up, this enterprise up and running. So I'm going to give outros to all these great individuals. But yeah, this was a fun conversation. I really enjoyed it overall. You covered a lot of ground,
but mostly peaceful protest.
That's a good one. I like it. Let's go to our friend Lactoid. Lactoid, thanks. This was great.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. If you like what I had to say, you can find me at Lactoid TV on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Thanks.
Thank you. Scott.
Yeah, I am Scott from Fabian Liberty. You can find me on Fabian Liberty, mostly on YouTube and Twitter. I am a libertarian. I will be streaming most Wednesdays and Thursdays, coming on Prime, when I can as well. Thursday, I'm really excited to start a new series. I think I'm debating some guy. I don't know. But also starting a new series, Heroes of Capitalism, where I will be giving presentations on some people that have been ruined throughout history with tellings of people that have been infected with an ideology that has destroyed their ability to see how amazing some of the great industrialists and capitalists of the past have been. And I'll be starting with the great story of James Cash Penney. Yeah, so come check it out.
Thank you. Next, our friend Corey. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. Again, always grateful to be here. You can find me on Twitch, Corey Campbell 84, Twitter, X, YouTube, Instagram. It's Corey Campbell. Doobie, Ghosty, Ali, Katya, Gibbs, Scott, Lactoid. Always a pleasure. Love you, Prime.
Gibbs, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, good to be here. It's always fun. Enjoyed it. Also, yeah, I'm Gibbs. Hey, guess what? I got some new stuff too. We're gonna be doing 1v1s on Tuesdays from now. You can always catch me here on Mondays. And Wednesdays, we're gonna also be doing stuff. And then Thursday, I think we're gonna be bringing a roundtable debate back soon. We're gonna be bringing back conservative topics because it's always these lefty-dominated spaces. We only talk about what the left wants to talk about. I think we're gonna start talking about what the right wants to talk about sometimes around here. So check it out. And then if you catch me on the weekend, you didn't because I'm drinking.
I'm curious what these topics will be, though. Now that's got me really curious. We're gonna go with that. And I don't know. I feel like we talk about stuff that I feel like we talk about things that would appeal to conservatives sometimes. Maybe I'm wrong. But what do you guys think?
Topic.
I think
the topics are pretty open-ended.
Yeah, yours are fine. They're not like some people I've brought up stuff before. I'll just do something specific. We talked about the jobs report, right? And not here, but I've talked about it before. And I was like, well, I don't really trust this. And people are like, why don't you trust it? Well, when I go to Monster and they have 40 to 60% people working, 2 jobs, and then you go to the jobs report and it says 3%. There's some sort of discrepancy here, and that's a conservative talking point people want to talk about. But I brought that up on many panels, and nobody wanted to talk about any of this. Of course, that's just an example.
In Wix Discord server earlier today.
Yeah, well,
is the Department of Education
was
Is the
sick.
Department of Education good or great? You discuss.
Yeah, should we abolish the ATF?
Yeah.
Abolish
But
every three-letter agency.
well, thanks so much. All right, let's go. Katya, thanks for being here. And finally, you've experienced the magic of Scott. I don't think you had the pleasure
I
previously.
haven't.
But Katya's been doing great here so far previously. And I was hoping she would get along well with Scott. Apparently, yes, no one's upset. No one's in tears. So hopefully
Here for off stream.
yeah.
I just capture all panels.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely enjoyed talking to Scott. I always love talking to, people who are like really in it to get in with topics and stuff like that. Look forward to speaking to all of you guys again, Scott included. I know like Doobie hasn't been here much since I've been joining in, so hi Doobie.
Hello.
But yeah, it was very fun talking to you guys. You can find me on Twitter at Premier Katya. I don't stream or anything, but yeah, I'm writing a novel right now, so I don't really have too much time for that. Between that, work, everything else, so yeah.
Thanks so much. And good luck for that novel. That sounds really interesting. Let's
It's very weird historical fiction.
Topic. What do you mean it sounds interesting?
No, I mean, like, I'm sorry. The fact that you're writing is great. Like I encourage people to pursue their creative pursuits. So, shout out to you. Hopefully, it is interesting in the end. That we can't guarantee. Let's go to.
I can guarantee you haven't read anything like it before. Well, maybe you have.
May or may not
if you
be a
have
good thing.
recommended to me, I don't know.
All right.
It's out there.
Ali, thank you for being here, friend.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I always look forward to Mondays and hopefully to continue them. As always, Free Palestine, but new slogan, just stop giving money to Israel. I think that'll win over the rest of the people.
Mm-hmm.
Facts.
Yeah.
Maybe like shorten it a little bit. Just stop giving money to
No
Israel.
more money to other countries.
Yeah.
No money, Israel. Done.
Oh, other countries.
Yeah.
You say other. No foreign aid. No foreign aid. Yeah, no foreign aid.
Oh my God. NMI. No money, Israel.
Just say no.
No foreign aid. You got a bunch of
no foreign aid. I'm with
that.
that.
Or if you want to get a little bit better, right, and you want to figure out how real Trump train, if you're, for whatever.
Sell to both sides.
Just
That's
say
the better
America
one.
first.
Yeah, America first.
America and Ukraine first.
I want to have a chat after you close off for a second.
Let's go, Ghosty. Ghosty, thank you also for stopping by.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure talking with you guys all again. Love to come back as always. And Ghosty, it's spelled with the 6 on YouTube.
Finally, a friend, Doobie. I'm glad you could join us. I know you were busy today, but you still managed to make time. Thanks for being here, friend.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I agree with everything sociologic side. Okay. I think the more America gets comfortable with not cooking to Israel, the better off we are as a country.
The more America gets comfortable with doing what to Israel?
With not cooking to Israel.
Not
Having fucking Netanyahu give a speech where he's called His Excellency and given fucking 3-minute standing ovations, and then he calls us cowards for not fighting Iran and shit and not giving him more money and more missiles, and then they give him another 2-minute standing ovation. Fuck that. It's embarrassing. It's humiliating as a country for that to happen. Like our fucking representatives showing up, wearing fucking IDF uniforms in our fucking government is disgusting to me. Okay, I think that guy should be fucking deported.
Absolutely, yes, love it. Yeah, fuck that guy.
He has a presentation. Okay, he's got a board and it's got a picture of a bomb, and it's 90% full, and he's gonna let you know how Iran get that other 10%.
Elise Stefanik reporting her progress to Israel, right? She's like in Israel, talking about how much she is going to provide for them, and then this is like I think this was earlier this year, and then because she's made it clear that she will do anything that Israel says, now she is being elevated to the U.S. ambassador to the UN. Almost certainly with the blessing of Miriam Adelson, who gave Trump like $114 million, somewhere around that, with the promise of annexing the West Bank, which now a Israeli.
What job does she have now?
She's going to be the
Right,
ambassador
what
to the
job does she
UN.
currently have?
She's a representative, I believe, or she's senator. I forget. So she's in the Congress.
Yeah, you're not paying attention what Trump's really doing. He's getting rid of the fucking war hawk out of the Senate and pushing them off to an ineffective space. That's what he's doing.
6D
Okay,
chess
well-
prime.
But let's talk about.
Let's
Let's talk this about a second.
7D
I'm gonna rate out to this woman. I don't know who she is. But that's what we do. We're gonna rate them out.
We don't cuck to Israel, but we do simp to female streamers. Got it.
Absolutely. Don't ever forget
Damn,
it.
gotta
right?
start streaming.
Hey to her, whoever that random streamer is.
I'm sure she's a very nice lady. I have no idea who this is. She's got a nice smile.
Silicone chest, like
Not
like a
so.
Canadian
She seems
teacher
very
who works
natural. Okay.
Very natural.
Here
I'm
we
not on
go.
Twitch right now. I don't even know what you're looking at. I'm just fucking around.
Yeah. It's fine. But anyway, we're out. So if anyone needs to leave, that's okay. Yeah. This is great.
Wait, so do you guys actually think Trump's not going to be sending foreign aid?
Well, I think he's about to go to war with Russia because what's his name allegedly posted nudies of his wife.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Lactoid TV. To all of you who gave bits and subs and were active in chat, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and write on out into our good friend Gibbs, and I will see you guys next time.